end of his first term, Joni would marry Chachi. Hair metal would achieve mainstream airplay, and Shelley Long would successfully make the leap from television to film.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome to Free Talk Live. The phone lines are open for you. If you want to join the show, you can do that. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We got a show for you tonight where you can bring up whatever's on your mind. That's what we do every night here on Free Talk Live. Of course, we also bring things to the table to discuss. I was not on the program last night. Aria and the girls were here at that time, and I don't think they covered. Bonnie hasn't stepped into the studio yet, but I don't think they covered the Georgia Guidestones.
No.
And Joey, you're here with me tonight. I'm Ian. The phones are open, 603-283-6160. And I asked you before the show, what's a big story that you think we need to cover? And you said Georgia Guidestones.
Georgia
right?
Guidestones. It's kind of interesting that, they had to tear them down after.
They were wasn't one of them destroyed in some way prior to them tearing them down?
Yeah, I don't know. I look at it all very suspicious, but, we can talk about it. And
well, let's start by talking about what these things are, because I don't think a lot of people are even aware. It's been called, I believe, America's Stonehenge, located down in Georgia. I heard about this, I don't know, maybe in the last decade or so, probably.
Sure.
Sort of through the kind of the conspiracy crowd,
that's where I got it
like
from.
Alex Jones or something. I don't know where
Jordan
I saw
Maxwell
it first.
Or something like that.
I first heard about it on Vigilant Citizen, probably in like 2012 or 2011.
You know what? That might have been it, too.
But I heard about it since like maybe 2008.
Yeah, and they've been around for some time.
Since the 80s, I heard.
Yeah. So, as I understand it, and, by no means am I an expert about this, the Georgia Guidestones, it's unknown who it was that commissioned the artwork.
But it says it's from RC, so a lot of people think Rosicrucians.
Are
those like Rose, like Ross, like Rose?
Rosicrucian, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe what is a Rosicrucian?
Just some kind of a secret society that started in Europe.
Okay.
Like around when the Bavarian Illuminati showed up in 1776 in Germany. So
the Georgia Guidestones are kind of infamous for being the this sort of a public statement, like this sort of piece of art that has a message on it, the guiding, I guess, aspect of it.
Yeah,
and the message,
creepy guide.
Yeah, that's the thing. The message includes, and I'm sure I don't know if you're pulling it up or whatever.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah, that they want to reduce the world's population to like 500,000. What is it?
So
5 million.
500 million.
500 million. Okay.
The first one's maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, as if we can't exist after the 500 million, like we're not existing right now, or we've been doing that since, I don't know, when we broke the population barrier.
Who decides that 500 million people is in balance with nature?
I know who decides that. These elites with their nosebleeds up in the tower, ivory tower, is saying, "Oh my God, they're overpopulating us. They're going to take over," and they're starting to realize that we actually are in control, and that they're just the pawns, the minions, and that they would not even exist without us. Or I say us in the sense of anyone over 500 million.
Yeah, the rest of humanity that they have enslaved.
Exactly. Yeah. And, it's obnoxious that
but there's
people
more
put these
to it,
stones
right?
up.
Like, that's not all that's on the Georgia Guidestones. That's part of some sort of a large
it's been a while since I've read this. Some of them I may have agreed with, right? Hold on a second. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. I think these are...
Nothing wrong with that.
It sound, fluffy good, right? And then unite humanity with the living new language. Okay, that sounds kind of interesting. I don't know what that...
a little weird.
It is a little culty-ish sounding. But, I mean, we all use English. I mean... Well,
English has sort of become the global standard for language, but it did it on its own, right? Like, you didn't have to have some government shoving it down people's throats.
Yeah, they did. Imperialism.
Yeah, imperialism.
It was basically shoved down people's throats.
Distorted language.
That's why I don't like English. I want to know another language, but really Spanish is another like colonial imperialist language, and it'd probably be the most helpful one for me to learn. So
Well, I don't think you can find a language that wasn't promoted by men with guns at some point.
Yeah, that's why we need our own.
It's funny because there's a person we know that teaches this second language, and I forget the name.
Esperanza?
That's it.
Esperanto?
Esperanto. That's it. Yeah, and I guess like there's within like this community of ours up here in New Hampshire, there's an Esperanto class and how to learn, and I think it's great. Or maybe we should go back to old ways. And,
if you want to talk to a few people that can't.
Where did it come from?
Where did Esperanto come from? I don't know.
That was the language was designed to be very easy to learn and very easy to remember and use and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's supposed to be a universal, something that people from over here can still understand most of the words, and over here, so it just blends it all up, kind of. Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be hard for me. I'd be hard pressed to say, oh well, if I'm going to spend time learning a language, that I would want to learn a language that not many people knew. I would think
that's the truth.
That you'd want to learn something that would be more useful if you're going to be traveling or something like that.
The thing is, like, a language created by the World Economic Forum so we can have a one world government. I'm not going to try to learn. I don't want to try to learn that. But if it was something that I knew formed organically and it was going to connect people, in different countries who should be able to, freely trade with each other and things like that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just don't want I don't want any language forced down my throat, which I basically did have a language forced down my throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't think that's true. I mean, just because you grew up with other people speaking English doesn't mean it was forced down your throat. That's just
I was
the way
born
of
in
the
the
world.
area where Red Sox are, right? Like the Red Sox fans are. I hate sports.
Right. Yeah, it's just the way of the world. I don't think anybody who cares about freedom should be pining over a better language. There are so many other things we should
certainly
be
wouldn't
concerned
chisel
with.
up in a piece of stone and for the world to see.
Yeah.
So what else did they say? Because like you said, there's some things that are agreeable here. I mean, it gets a lot of press for the whole reduction of population, and it should, because there's only one way you can reduce the world's population from 8 billion to 500,000. That's, 1/16 of the current world's population, and the only way you can do that is by
vaccines.
Eugenics, by forcing people to die, basically.
I mean, that's really blatant, them just saying it straight up. But I don't know.
Well, here's the thing: there's people like Bill Gates that apparently agree with this, right?
Yeah. Maybe I don't know.
As I understand it,
I don't know anyone that spoke out.
Well, yeah,
for these.
Bill Gates didn't say he agrees with the Georgia Guidestones. He said that he believes that the world population could be reduced with a vaccine, and he said a number, he said it could be reduced, like 70% or something like that. I don't remember what the number was, but he said with vaccine technology.
Wow.
You're better than us, Bill Gates? I don't think so.
That's scary
Way
stuff.
before COVID was a thing. COVID-19
I invented
was
computers, and you should listen to what I have to say.
Well, it's not just him, though.
It's true.
Who's the big mogul in
Klaus
television?
Schwab?
No. I'm sure he's on board with this stuff.
Warner Von Braun?
No, I'm thinking of the guy. He owns TV stations
Rudolph
or whatever.
Hearst?
Nah, not that. I mean, he's probably bad news too. But
Murdoch?
Ted somebody. I'm sorry. He owns Turner. Ted Turner. I think Ted Turner's known as being one of these world population reductionist types, like
David Rockefeller too.
Yeah. So. Again, only one way you can reduce the world's population, because you're not going to be able to convince people, right?
No.
Like in theory,
hey, can you just die for me, please?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have to convince them to kill themselves necessarily. You would just have to convince them to stop breeding.
Well,
right?
yeah, and make life so miserable with inflation and whatever else they're trying to create on us that people just kill themselves. Like, you don't have to tell them, hey, go kill yourself. No. We're gonna give you no other option in this world.
Well, that happened a lot in China, for instance, when the lockdowns were happening in Shanghai for nearly 3 months. It seemed like an everyday occurrence that videos were coming out of men and women jumping off of 100-story apartment buildings or whatever.
I mean, that happened here during the lockdowns that the government imposed because of COVID-19.
Suicides did go up.
Killed themselves.
That's interesting. Like, are they counting those into the COVID-related deaths?
I don't know. Good question.
We'll find out. It's gonna come. All that stuff's gonna come out eventually.
So you've got the text of the Georgia Guidestones, which have been attacked apparently by somebody. Maybe they did it to themselves. Who knows? We'll continue.
I kind of like talking about these rules.
I do too. Yeah, I want to go through the whole thing. I want to go through this
Sounds
whole
good.
thing. I mean, this thing's now destroyed apparently completely And I presume somebody's going to put them back up, but we'll see. If you want to weigh in, you can join us at 603-283-6160, 603-283-6160. And this is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. You can take control of the airwaves. 603-283-6160. If you want to comment on the Georgia Guidestones, these sort of mysterious stones that appeared in Georgia some decades ago, apparently. And then this week they are gone, demolished as part of I guess a cleanup of what was not a planned demolition, or maybe it was, depending on who you ask. But the news came out a few days ago that someone had destroyed one of the Georgia Guidestones. Now, do you happen to know, Joa, was it the one that had the inscription about the killing, basically the majority of the people on the planet?
Well, yes, because each stone had a different language. Each side had a yes. So they were trying to basically. All right, this is the funny thing. Okay, if someone blew it up, they used improvised device or something like that to.
Is that what they're saying? It was an actual explosion.
It looked. I saw the footage of it. Like they had a camera on it, which is kind of
really
interesting. Which it didn't show the people going to plant the thing. They just showed the explosion and one vehicle that was going by, not the other. I don't know. I've only saw portions of this, so I'm not I haven't studied this up. I just heard it. But the thing is that you could tell in the video that it was like an explosive. It looked like maybe tanninite, but it was like a hard rock, like solid stone that was cut, and when it blows up, it's dusty. I don't really know, but yeah. So I guess it was the structure was unsafe, so they had to pull the whole thing down.
Gotcha.
They got one of them, and they just took it all down.
And do you know where this thing actually is located? Is it on private property, or is it like a public park or something like that? Do you have any idea?
I mean, I'll look, but I do believe that it was on private property and that the public is allowed to go in. I just I'm not really sure. It's the 5-acre site was apparently purchased by Christian. This guy Robert Christian, which is a pseudonym apparently. October 1st, 1979. From a farm owner, so it seems like it's private. And I guess cows have been given a lifetime grazing rights.
It says here that in '79, a man using a pseudonym, this is Wikipedia by the way, Robert C. Christian, approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of, quote, a small group of local Americans, or loyal Americans, unquote, and commissioned the structure. He said that they would function as a compass, calendar, and a clock, and should be capable of, quote, withstanding catastrophic events. Well, apparently not so much.
Yeah, could you imagine, like, this? Like, they try to build it for, like, nukes or something like that, right? But, I mean, it looks like Tanninite did the job,
Yeah, going on here, I don't know, does it say where it's actually located? Off of Georgia State Route 77, north of the city of Elberton. So anyway, we're going through the list of inscriptions here, and I've got the list here as well, Joe. You were sharing some of this stuff. Were you going in a specific order?
Yeah, we were just talking about the language, which was number 3.
Okay, so actually what I didn't realize was that number 1 is the maintain humanity under 500 million people, what they claim is in perpetual balance with nature. So I mean, that's where the controversy really comes in here, but we'll find out what the rest of them say.
Okay, so we're on number 4 here, rule, passion. So rule, passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Just like how I said that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. I mean, obviously, passion is an important thing.
Yeah. We shouldn't look at this as like a constitution, right, of like a personal self. This is just kind of like a guideline, a guidestone, how we should act and, behave. And not so much of constitution, I don't think. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to, understand how they're putting it. And number 5, protect.
I mean, I don't disagree that one should temper one's passions in certain instances.
Yeah.
But
people are allowed to be boring. People are allowed to do whatever, to watch TV and not do anything. You don't have to be passionate.
But at the same time, there's real value to being passionate about things, right? And I guess don't let it consume you, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. If you want to weigh in, you're welcome to join us at 603-283-6160. Going on.
Okay. So number 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. But this is, okay.
Pure fantasy.
But I'm pre-warning you because there's a rule coming up that contradicts this. So
yeah, there's a good one, really good one coming up. But this is obviously pure fantasy. The idea is just courts. I don't think that's ever existed.
No.
They're at least not with a central government. Not in the systems that we've had up until this point, where so-called justice is dished out by a monopoly, essentially a group of men and women calling themselves the government, that if you don't like their services, tough, you're forced to pay for them, whether they do a good job or whether they do a crap job. So people can say, oh, well, we got to improve the court system. Well, good luck. How are you going to do that?
Right,
the only way that it can be improved is to abolish it entirely and have no more state, no more monopoly on violence, and actually have the marketplace provide whatever kind of arbitration services that people are looking for.
They can still call it court for all I care. It's just that it's going to be done through a private consensual means versus this insanity that they have going on now.
And you should have to agree to the rules before you're suddenly under their jurisdiction being tried for something you never agreed to do or not do.
I didn't sign any social contract.
Me either.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Bonnie. If you're going to be going into a courthouse or a courtroom or whatever, you should know what the rules are, right? Like if you go onto a court to play any other kind of game, you better know the rules.
Well, we're supposed to know all the laws, right? So we don't break the law, and then all of a sudden you break the law and you go to court and you have to hire someone. Because you can't know the law.
Correct. Not only can you not know the law, they don't either, right? Like, that's why lawyers specialize.
Yeah.
So there's criminal attorneys, and then there's civil attorneys, and then there's breakdowns within those of all different areas of the law, because they can't know the law either.
And that's why lawyers become very specific lawyers.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because they don't like these surprise cases and just get railroaded by these judges because they don't really know, but it's best for them to just railroad you because they don't want to have to, have it on their back on these maybe bad judgments. But anyways.
And of course, it's no surprise that lawyers are the people that become lawmakers, because every time they create a new set of laws, it's new business for them.
Oh, of course. Of course. That's why they created marriage licensing.
That's right.
Because that way they can make money off of it.
They also did it to stop black people from marrying white people as well as racist.
But that had to do with money, because then you can't, anyways.
Well, now it has to do with money in a different way. Now they want everybody to get married so they can control people's marriages.
Right. I like bringing this up and talking about that for a second, is that, marriage licensing and like having approval by the state is a distortion in your own thought. You should be like, and they think that, I have to have the state's permission so I can get insurance, a discount on my insurance. No, you had a bunch of witnesses at a ceremony with pictures and video and, I don't know, maybe rings, or you can do an affidavit saying that, I got married, and insurance companies should accept that. If they're going to reject that, maybe you can, go to another insurance. Yeah.
We got more coming up here on the mixed Georgia Guidestones. Some of this stuff sounds okay. Some of it, as you'll see in a bit, is actually pretty decent. And then the terribly horrifying part about, exterminating the world's population.
Yeah.
There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave number 10 Downing Street sooner rather than later, after he announced on Thursday that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The Prime Minister never used the word resign in his statement outside number 10 and insisted he plans to remain as a caretaker until the party has a chance to elect a new leader. But several top Conservatives are rejecting rejecting that idea as unsustainable. And the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, is threatening parliamentary action to derail Mr Johnson's plans.
They can't now inflicting on the country for the next few months. It's obvious he's unfit to be Prime Minister. And if they don't get rid of him, then Labour will step up in the national interest and bring a vote of no confidence, because we can't go on with this Prime Minister clinging on for months and months to come.
Sebastian Payne is chief political correspondent for the Financial Times.
I thought the speech was very classically Boris Johnson. There was not much of an apology, but it seemed to very much do a sort of worries me thing about saying that he had this great mandate and got us through the pandemic, taking a vanguard front on the war in Ukraine, but really didn't speak to the fact that his cabinet didn't want him there anymore, his party didn't want him there anymore, and as the polling said, the country didn't really want him there anymore as well.
Meanwhile, it's reported that Boris Johnson is trying to remain in office for several more weeks so that his wedding reception can be held at Chequers, the country estate that comes with the job of Prime Minister. Kitty Donaldson, chief UK political reporter with Bloomberg, says the invitations have already been sent to guests, and the Prime Minister and his wife are resisting calls for them to find a new venue.
The thinking may have involved, holding on to Chequers in order to host his wedding there with Kerry next month. They are, of course, already married, but this was the big party that was postponed because of COVID. The stiff bits of cardboard have hit the doormats, and it's all ready, I think. Barring the weather, it's all set to go.
President Biden, in a statement on developments in London, did not even mention Boris Johnson by name, but simply noted the importance of the US relationship with Britain. Ukraine and Russia had starkly contradictory reactions to Mr Johnson's fall. The Kremlin called his government's collapse the natural result of British arrogance and incompetence, but as FSN's Stuart Smith reports, Kiev took a different view.
Mikhail Podolyak, an advisor to the head of the presidential administration, thanked Boris Johnson for supporting Kiev in the most difficult times and for always being at the forefront of supporting Ukraine.
Two other headlines today. US basketball star Brittany Griner entered a guilty plea to drugs charges in Russia, but insisted she never intended to break the law. And the actor James Caan, Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, has died at the age of 82. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. I want to weigh in on the Georgia Guidestones, or what's left of them.
Yeah, right.
Because they're gone after apparently somebody, we don't know who, attacked in some way and destroyed one of the Guidestones earlier this week.
And it's not the first time that's ever happened. There's been
that they've been attacked.
There's been vandalism on it and stuff.
But this one was like smashed, right? It was, or you said there might have been some sort of an explosive utilized, and they destroyed one of the stones apparently. And as a result, whoever it is that owns the property came in there and demolished the rest of them.
Maybe God did it.
Well,
there's no footage of anybody else.
So. What we're doing here tonight is we're going through the Georgia Guidestones inscription, which apparently were in multiple languages, and there are 10 what they consider to be guidelines or principles in those different languages. And the biggest, most intense, kind of scary one is the first one. Number 1, maintain humanity. Under 500 million people.
Because that's normal.
That's like a fraction of the current world population. Right. I mean, that would basically be exterminating all of the planet with the exception of North America. Mm-hmm. I mean, essentially North and maybe Central America or something like that. That's a lot of people would be killed.
We can save Mark.
There's some other things on this list that aren't so bad, and we've been going through that list here tonight. If you want to weigh in, again, you're welcome to join us here at 603-283-6160. But I also want to make sure you know about Bitcoin.com, because if you are interested in learning about how to advance humanity rather than destroy it, then one of the solutions, of course, is to empower the individual. And to do that, you got to get the individuals of this world to stop using the government's money, because everybody that's using the government money, and I'm not just talking about the dollar, I mean the euro, any government central bank money out there, they're putting power into the hands of the state, and the state goes to war with that power, and they kill innocent people all around the planet. So if you want to help prevent that from happening, then you ought to look at alternatives like crypto, like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. You can go to bitcoin.com and click Get Started at the top of the page, and that is where you can learn more. There's some introductory videos there that'll help you understand some of the basics about cryptocurrency. Again, like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Over at bitcoin.com, just click Get Started at the top of the page, or go to their news site and get the latest news headlines anytime you want over at news.bitcoin.com. All right, so Joe, where do we leave off here on this list?
All right, so now we're on Rule 6. This is creepy, maybe just as creepy as the first one. But let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. A world court.
Well, they already have that one, right?
I know, but it's still creepy you put this on here, because it already is creepy.
So what's the World Court, the UN?
I don't know who runs it. It may be the UN. It's in The Hague, I think is what they call it. Isn't that Denmark? It's somewhere up in that.
I've never heard of somebody going to World Court. What would you go there for?
Somebody doesn't go to World Court. Only nation states go to the what they call the International Court. There's an International Criminal Court, and then there's whatever civil version or something. There's basically any kind of disputes between the members of the court can be heard in that particular court. Not every country on the planet is a member of that particular court, so it doesn't have quote-unquote jurisdiction over the entire planet as much as they might like, but it does have, I don't know, 100 or something. There's a lot of members.
I think that's kind of a reason why it's dangerous to allow countries to go completely nationalized, like every resource and that sort of thing, like Venezuela and China.
You mean where the government owns things like oil or companies?
Yeah,
or whatever?
I mean they own everything. I mean you just happen to be allowed to have that thing. It's not free in China.
Oh, yeah.
You're allowed to own that thing, not because you're a free person, but because
Communist
government
Party says
so.
so.
Yeah. But then it's like, everyone is responsible if they do something wrong. But so how does the World Court work though? Like if a country does something bad, what do? Go, you're bad, and that's it.
They go to the World Court and they say, well, again, it has to be if they're members, right? So only members of the World Court.
Consensual.
Quote unquote. So if let's say Honduras has a dispute with the United States and over some sort of border thing or whatever, right? Like somebody hurt somebody who works for the government. They've got different areas of jurisdiction that they can work at, and so they just say, well, look, if we can't work it out between the two diplomats or whatever, then they go and they file a case with the World Court, and there's some man in a robe or maybe a group of.
How does a nation pay back another nation when they're found guilty? I just don't see how
they steal money from taxpayers. I mean, how else?
Yeah, I guess so.
How else would they do it? They print it out, I guess. There's that one.
Or nations put tariffs on other nations, like, I'm punishing you now.
Yeah. Is that the court that after World War II, the Nuremberg trials were at?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think those were in Nuremberg. So this one's in The Hague. Where those are in relation to one another, I don't know my European geography.
Well, nowhere
very
near the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah,
certainly not. We're not talking about Georgia the country, by the way. We're talking about Georgia the state of Georgia inside the United States.
And talking about petty laws, number 7, avoid petty laws.
This is the best one on the list, by the way.
Yeah, avoid petty laws and useless officials. I mean,
useless officials.
So that's like all of them.
This should be right at the top. This one's number 1.
It should be, but this
should
is
be
obviously
the only one.
Not, yeah, this list is not a libertarian list in any way, shape, or form. It's a total global government kind of pimping concept behind this global Guidestones. I mean, this is they're just tossing this one in there.
Yeah, I'm imagining like a king going, like looking at this and being like, just this is my guide, but I don't have to do that. If I want a petty law, I'm going to do it. But overall, if I want to be a good king, then I will avoid petty laws. But
it's also subjective, right? So,
exactly.
What do you consider petty law? Something that affects you financially. Oh, okay, so I'm going to commit this financial crime over here.
Or pointless laws, but different people disagree as to what laws they consider to be a waste of time or a waste of effort. So it's almost like they just threw this one in because very few people would disagree with it. I mean, even a dictator would likely say, well, of course we shouldn't have petty laws. We should only have the most important laws, and they should be enforced the way I say they should be enforced. And of course, every government on the planet wants to pretend like they don't have useless officials, that they're running as lean and mean as they possibly can, even though we all know that's not true. Governments are incredibly wasteful. They're full of useless officials.
Like the DCYF.
Yep, here in New Hampshire, that's the Department of Children and Youth Families or something like that. But so like 99 out of 100 bureaucrats are completely useless, and the only reason I'll give them one is because somebody out there is fixing the roads, right? I mean, there's somebody is.
Yeah, but you don't need an official to even do such a thing.
No, of course not. I guess I was just calling them official in that they hold an office.
So it has a practical purpose in I get what you're saying.
There are those people in government, right? Like when we get to the day where we finally can end the centralized state, we're still going to need somebody to go and move snow off the roads or...
Yeah, but it won't have to be a government. It will just be a company at that point.
That's
I know, but I'm explaining to the listeners.
Yeah, thank you. They wouldn't be officials anymore. I'm just giving them credit where credit's due. They do a few things that are useful, and those few things that they do that are useful would be done voluntarily. Not voluntarily, but they'd be paid. But, it would be done on a consensual basis in a marketplace.
They only plow the roads right now so that way their cops can continue to go around, giving out tickets and stuff.
Well, Domino's does the same thing. They repair roads so that their drivers can, drive on safe roads.
That's right. They made a campaign about that a couple of years back.
But they don't have to steal from you either. They just, they upsell your pepperonis.
They did it on a completely voluntary basis. So we got 3 more on this list of 10 inscriptions on the Georgia Guidestones, which have now been demolished earlier this week. If you want to jump into the conversation with your thoughts, you're welcome to do that. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can take control of the airwaves. That's 603-283-6160. And this is Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open. If you want to join in here, we've been talking about the Georgia Guidestones, this creepy structure that was put up more than 40 years ago at this point, in 1979, apparently. I'm sorry, erected in 1980. Still over 40 years ago. According to Wikipedia, we're going through the list of the inscriptions on the Georgia Guidestones, which were available in multiple languages. The Guidestones have been destroyed after apparently someone bombed it on July 6th. And you mentioned there is footage of that. They actually included it here on the Wikipedia page. But as you pointed out, Joa, they don't include any footage of people planting the bomb.
It's like they don't want to discover who they are.
I mean, it's nighttime. It's probably not going to be real clear.
Oh, was it night? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it looks like it was 4 in the morning when this was set off. And, we don't know how many different monitors there were. Were there more than one camera? They only show one angle of this, so I guess it's possible somebody could have snuck. If there's only one camera, then
there's two angles at least.
Are there two?
Yeah.
Okay, you've seen them both?
Well, I see. This is all I saw, and it was from the Daily News or something like that. And it was Daily Motion, I think it was. And I saw the explosion from one angle, and then it just like almost instantly cuts from that and shows the explosion from another angle, longer. From the back
so then they did have it covered then. So they must have footage of whoever the suspects
are. I mean, they just didn't release it. I'm like, should be like, this thing happened. We should probably catch these guys.
Yeah, maybe like people could help figure it out if they made it public, but...
and that lends credence to the argument that maybe whoever the Rosicrucians or whoever the mysterious group is that's behind the Georgia Guidestones, maybe they attacked their own monument to bring more attention to it or something like that.
It's definitely working. We're talking about it. Right. So who knows? But
we're going to continue with the list here of the different goals or whatever they called, the inscriptions,
the
guides, the suggestions to humanity. And we've been going through and just kind of discussing them as we've gone through the list. Some of them seem okay. Okay, let's improve fitness and diversity. Fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
These are personal choices. You don't have to be fit, you know.
Well, they don't go into that. They don't say that they're talking to a king, or if they're talking to just the average person telling them you should try to be fit. They don't say that, or whether they're saying like a king should force all his people to be physically fit. So
that's good. That's a good point.
It's a little open-ended.
So, I mean, based on what they're saying about some of these other points, which is to say that they want fair laws and just courts and a world court, it definitely sounds like it's leaning towards centralized world government. And obviously that means that these are people who are willing to use, I mean, clearly they're willing to use some sort of coercion because there's no other way to get to 500 million population.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm thinking, what I'm thinking here is that if you're going to get to the 500 million, you probably shouldn't want to avoid those laws. But they're saying avoid petty laws.
Petty laws.
Right, but that means don't avoid murder.
They wouldn't consider it a petty law to put, the vast majority of the world's population to death.
Yeah, it's important to them.
That's well, for them, it's important because they believe that will help the planet. They believe that humans are a danger. They believe that humans are a pestilence or a cockroach or whatever that needs to be exterminated. I mean, you want to take down the world population from 8 billion people down to 500 million. You're talking about massive extermination of mankind.
Sure.
I mean, these are whoever these people are. They are psychopaths.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah.
Let's go on, though, with the list here, Joe. I think you were at number 8 was coming up next.
Yep, 8 is balance personal rights with social duties.
And there's all you need to know to prove...
That's slavery. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, these are total status. That's what that is a status belief system, is that, oh, well, yeah, you can have your freedom of speech so long as it doesn't infringe on the government's rights. And the government...
So long as you're doing what you need to do for everyone else on the planet.
Yeah, so these people don't believe in rights.
You know what that reminds me of, though? That reminds me of like high school when they tell you, oh, you have to do community service or you can't graduate, which is never true. They lie to you about
really?
that. Yeah. You don't actually have to do it. People protested it. What's that?
That wasn't a thing for my high schools.
Really? I'm glad you didn't have that.
That's interesting because
that
was around when I was in school.
Yeah, and so like when I hear this, it sounds like, I'm not going to be able to live free in the society unless I contribute. I mean, no, you have the right to be, what's his name? Something Dave?
River Dave.
River Dave. If you want to be
living
River
down
Dave,
by the river,
and you don't want to deal with anyone the rest of your life, and you just grow your food, have some chickens, you have the right to do that.
Yeah, you have no duty to anyone else that you didn't personally take on.
Mm-hmm.
You just because somebody pushed you out of their womb on a certain plot of land doesn't mean that you have a duty to anyone out there, especially these people that like David that call in from California claiming there's a social contract. Well, okay, let me see it then. I'd like to see this social. Oh, well, we can't do that. It's not social. Well, okay, well then there's no contract, because if there's no actual written agreement, then
that somebody signed, that I signed.
Yeah, that not only did I sign, but I understood before I signed it. Because they basically just say, "Oh, well, you're sucking air, you're a child or whatever. You just came out of your mom's womb. Okay, well now you agree to this." It's ridiculous.
And they can't pinpoint exactly what you're agreeing to, so that therefore they can change it to whatever they want whenever it helps their argument.
Well, that's the thing. That's what the social contract is. It's just you do what they say. Whatever it is that the men with the guns say. That's the contract.
Well, I signed that social contract with my little tiny feet when I was a little baby. And they put that, they forced my feet into the ink pads. And
did they do that to you?
Of course they did that to me.
They do that to everyone.
Where does that show up? It's not on a birth certificate.
I don't know, but they do that.
It's some sort of document into the hospitals and that sort of thing. But...
so this is proof. This number 8 here is absolute proof that we're talking about total status. They don't believe in rights. Rights cannot be balanced with anything else. They can only be respected. And if they don't respect those rights, then you don't have them. And you have to have other human beings who understand, because you can stomp your feet all about rights as long as you want and as hard as you want. If you live in a society where other people do not respect those rights, then they don't exist.
Right.
I mean, I wish that it were some other way. I wish that we could just say, well, I have my rights, and then other people would give a damn. But these psychopaths calling themselves the government, they don't.
Yeah.
Anything they say about rights is just designed to distract you,
just
to get you to think they're still
or pacify
on your
you,
side.
so you feel like you have rights. You don't have to fight anymore because you already have rights from the Constitution.
Yeah, that piece of paper. But well, they're saying, or these stones, right? Or like not the piece of paper, but these Guidestones. You can listen to these things. But like if you link number 8, balance personal rights with social duties, with number 1, are they suggesting that everyone besides 500 million people just go kill themselves?
It's not clear what they're saying, is it?
It just seems that way because they're not preaching this to all of the world's population. Only 500 million of them.
But which 500 million?
Yeah, that's true.
And who decides who lives and who dies to get to this goal? Oh, well, clearly it's going to be the governments of the world who make those decisions.
Well, they're the most important. They need a contingency plan.
This is really scary stuff. All right, let's move on.
All right. So I like this one. This sounds really nice. And this is kind of like my own kind of mantra of sorts, I guess. I mean, I think it should be for most people. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Prize it? Is that what it says?
Sure. Yeah, you want to prize
as in
the
valuing
truth.
it. Value truth, value beauty, value love. I like all those things. Harmony with the infinite. That's a wonderful thing, a wonderful concept. But clearly these people do not believe in those things. You cannot say you prize love and then say, okay, we need to exterminate 90% of the world's population.
Like 6 billion plus.
Yeah, probably more than that. What is it, 7.5 billion right now, or something like that?
Who knows?
Allegedly, I mean, how do you even
these
know
numbers
those?
just be totally inflated for?
Yeah, how do they
That's
come
what I
up
always
with those
think.
numbers?
I don't believe them necessarily, but if we're just talking in normie terms, 7.5 billion.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about an insane amount of population reduction. If you believe in love, and then you would have to believe in human rights, and you would have to understand that there is no balancing act.
Well, there's no cap to how many people can exist.
Well, and that there is a certain number of resources, but the thing is, what people don't understand about finite resources is the human mind is not finite. We can keep imagining new ways to use existing resources, new ways to get energy, for instance, out of things that previously we didn't think you could get energy from.
And with restricted trade, we have no idea how abundant we could live if we could trade with whoever we wanted all over the earth.
That's another great point.
The efficiency of not having a middleman constantly.
We'll get to their 10th and final point coming up in hour number 2. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave number 10 Downing Street sooner rather than later, after he announced on Thursday that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The Prime Minister never used the word resign in his statement outside number 10 and insisted he plans to remain as a caretaker PM until the party has a chance to elect a new leader. As FSN's reporter in London, Ollie Barrett, reports.
There are those calls from some quite high-profile voices for Boris Johnson to go immediately, for an interim Prime Minister to be put in place between Boris Johnson and whoever takes over as the next Conservative leader and therefore Prime Minister. Allies of Boris Johnson will say to you there is precedent for this. When he came to power, Theresa May held on as caretaker Prime Minister to smooth the transition. But the reason there are such loud calls in sections of the Conservative Party for Boris Johnson to go now is that the trust has been broken to such an extent between him and some of those Conservative MPs, and that's why they worry about him remaining in place for what could last over a period of weeks, if not months.
Meanwhile, the White House insists the relationship between the US and the UK will be unaffected. But our US correspondent Simon Marks says there's already been one immediate impact.
Britain's Foreign Secretary Liz Truss left Bali, where she was due to be meeting G20 foreign ministers, including, of course, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, to set the stage for the G20 summit that will be held in Bali in November. Big issues on the agenda for those conversations, of course, including whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be welcomed at the G20 summit itself. Antony Blinken's plane arrived after Liz Truss had already beat a retreat back to London.
The former US police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd has been sentenced to another 21 years in prison for violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty to the charge in December in a deal that could see him move to a prison with more favourable conditions. Business and the S&P 500 has matched its longest winning streak of the year, reporting gains for the fourth straight day in a row, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow was up by more than 1% on Monday, gaining 300 points. And after recording its worst first half of the year since 1970 last week, the S&P's now matched its longest winning streak of the year, closing up for the fourth day in a row by 1.5%. It's prompting hopes of a stronger market going into the third quarter. The Nasdaq also rose by more than 2%. That was helped by some well-performing tech stock. Chipmaker Nvidia was up by nearly 5% after Samsung reported an 11% increase in profits and a 21% jump in revenue.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the thoughts of a prominent member of Britain's governing Conservative Party on how the party itself needs to get back on track once it puts the premiership of Boris Johnson behind it. Baroness Sayeeda Warsi was the first Muslim ever to serve in a British cabinet, and then at the age of 36 became the youngest member of the House of Lords. A lawyer, businesswoman and campaigner against Islamophobia, she looks forward to the days when the Conservative Party has a new leader.
For me, the bigger issue is not so much the colour or the gender of the person who seeks to lead us. It's whether or not they are genuinely a centre-ground Conservative. And I genuinely hope with all my heart that the party finds its way back from the terrible kind of nationalistic space that it's been in recently, the culture wars. And we keep presenting ourselves as these great patriots and defenders of our country. And, often I look at some of my colleagues in government and it feels like, the arsonists have taken over the country and they're setting it alight, but they're basically dressed up as patriots. And I just want genuine, patriotic Conservatives who believe in the rule of law and democracy and decency to come back and bring this party back into the centre ground.
But it is far from inevitable that the next party leader and thus the next UK Prime Minister will exhibit those qualities. A tussle lies ahead whenever the next leadership contest begins. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave sooner rather than later after he announced that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The former US police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd has been sentenced to another 21 years in prison for violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. And the S&P 500 has matched its longest winning streak of the year, reporting 4 straight days of gains. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
A majority of Americans are pointing to Friday's tragedy as a clear call for major reforms in everything, or literally anything at all that might prevent acts of horrifying, senseless violence. According to a recent ONN poll, the nation is united in saying that the key to preventing future tragedies is a drastic change in gun control, mental health care, school security, media coverage, violent entertainment, the fragility of the human condition, and really so many other things we probably haven't even thought of yet. Jesus. The Randolph Center for Public Health and Safety also released a statement saying, quote, "If you look at statistics regarding gun violence in the United States, you'll see the recent shooting is a clear cry for any thing at all to please be different." In Washington, lawmakers have reached a bipartisan agreement that the U.S. desperately needs tighter firearm restrictions or looser firearm restrictions, or honestly, whatever option just makes these things stop. Do that one.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you're invited if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
We've been talking about the Georgia Guidestones. They were apparently bombed on the 6th, so yesterday morning. Like 3 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
There was some kind of damage done by an explosion. There's video footage of that happening in the middle of the night, and they took down, I guess, that bomb took down at least one of the Guidestones. Was it 4 of them? I think that they had up.
It's yeah. So there's 4, and then it has like a top stone.
So the damage that was done was used as the reason to take the whole thing down. They said that it's now a danger or whatever to any visitors, that kind of thing. So they demolished,
as if it wasn't before.
Thing.
It wasn't a danger.
Well, the ideas were dangerous.
Yeah.
This is a structure that has been in place since 1980, and it's ultimately still a mystery. It's a bit of a shrouded mystery as to who it was that actually was behind the Georgia Guidestones. Some believe that it was some kind of like a secret society, like the Rosicrucians, apparently. And I don't know a whole lot about them, but Bonnie...
They've left... I don't know a whole lot about them either. I looked it up, and they started in the 17th century, not the 18th century, like I said, but in Europe. And I've read most of the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, which is a really beautiful, awesome book that is mostly just about like their spiritual beliefs. It's kind of like, it reminds me of Kabbalah. Like there are other dimensions of spirituality that people can access, or not spirituality, dimensions of the earth, like feelings have their own dimensions, stuff like that. So it didn't have anything evil in it that I've gotten to, but any of those old societies can be like the actual knowledge can be as occulted, and there can be frontmen that kind of hide behind it and do bad things. I really think that that's what a lot of the Freemasons do. Their actual beliefs are kind of beautiful and cool if you get into it.
Yeah, well, to be a better man and that sort of thing.
Right. And that's one of the problems with groups that have purportedly good beliefs at their core. They don't manifest into good when they're put into action, which there's some sort of a disconnect there. So
it's the whole concept of owning power, and then when you own power, you're always going to abuse it.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Of course. But that's the thing. These people don't see that. They, like, you look through this list of the things that the people behind the Georgia Guidestones believed in, and there's good-sounding stuff like avoid petty laws and useless officials and prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. When you hear people like that, and you'll hear a lot of that stuff in like the New Age religious movement, and even the Christians purportedly believe in forgiveness and love, but then they go to war and things like that.
Well, maybe this puts a little bit of thought into it too, and what languages they actually used.
Okay.
So they used Babylonian, And classical Greek.
You're talking about in the actual Georgia Guidestones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sanskrit. As I say it, Sanskrit.
Sanskrit, maybe.
And ancient Egyptian, so hieroglyphic.
Wow.
Interesting. I'm not seeing any of those on the list here on Wikipedia, so I wonder where that misinformation. Which one of these is the false list, or if they're just.
Do you
not
have a different list of languages?
fully included? This one says English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, traditional Chinese, and Russian.
Well, I'm sure there are pictures.
Claims the languages were chosen because they represented most of humanity. So I don't know.
This is what they're saying around the edges of the square were written in translations to the 4 ancient languages.
Maybe there's more than maybe there's more than what they listed. But the thing I was saying here though about this disconnect that people who are religious, and I have my religion personally, it's a pantheistic viewpoint, but a lot of people say really beautiful things like this number 9 here on the Georgia Guidestones: prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Cool. I totally agree with that. But I also believe in peace.
Yes.
And these people, on one hand, probably believe they do too, right? Like if you went up to whoever these people were and you asked them, well, do you guys believe in peace? Well, of course we do. We support peace. Okay, how are you going to get to 500 million people left on the planet?
Oh.
It's like, how big of a disconnect do you have to understand that you're not going to be able to persuade people to stop having children?
Well, just think about on a smaller level. You're talking to like these elites probably that created these Guidestones. Just like people who join the police, they believe that they're officers of peace, and they don't think about how they're day to day impeding on people's rights and causing more chaos in the world than order. They don't think about that at all. They truly believe to themselves that they are agents of peace.
Yeah, they're not thinking.
People are just like that. If they can,
just like
avoid
the military
thinking they
thinks, just like the military people think they're fighting for freedom.
Right. And like, you know how like they call people who promote peace, all these hippies and stuff, oh, you're the utopians. Like, you want everything to be so perfect. Well, dude, what do you think you're trying to do? You think you can bomb yourself to utopia? Like, what's the difference? Like, stop like criticizing the people that actually just don't want violence.
I don't think that the world would be perfect if there was suddenly anarchy overnight, but I think that it would be a lot more harmonious than it is now, because
absolutely
people would be able to choose the right options for their own lives
But the
themselves.
reason why you won't get anarchy overnight is because people don't believe that those ideas are good. They don't believe those ideas are possible. Some people like the idea, but they don't believe they're possible, right? So there's like different levels of belief about the concepts that we might be promoting. We might be promoting the idea of a voluntary society. I don't like the term anarchy myself personally. I think it's got some negative bomb-throwing connotations to it.
That's people who don't understand the English language's fault.
Well, we were talking with Jay Noon today off the air, and he was using the term non-anarchist. And I said, well, what's the difference between a non-anarchist and an anarchist? And he said, there is no difference. It's just that people don't understand anarchy. And so having a different word
I like it.
Might open up a conversation, might allow
like
somebody to open up their mind for a moment and take a new idea in. Because until you can get to the point where people value the idea of having no state, or the idea of having no central bureaucracy, this monopoly on violence, and how that can get us to more harmony with nature, how that can get us to more harmony between different people of different belief systems and cultures and things like that. Until people can understand and value that concept, we're never going to get to it. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's why I think what's happening here in New Hampshire is so important, where we actually have people migrating here as part of a movement of people who do share similar beliefs about freedom to come together so we can be more effective together. In fact, we just learned today, a news media person contacted me to let me know there's going to be a protest against the Free State Project here in our very own Keene, New Hampshire, coming up on Saturday. And I told the news lady, the reporter, I told her, this is proof that the Free State Project has been a tremendous success.
Exactly. There's protests against us now. I don't say us, because I don't associate.
Technically,
per
I'm not a
se.
free stater, but
Yeah, I
I'm
support
technically a
avowed.
free stater. I signed it.
yeah,
All right, I'm ignoring you now.
I support the Free State Project. I buy tickets to their events. I promote what they do.
Sure.
I think they do great work.
I like to volunteer at their events because it's the people. It's not so much the organizations. It's the people.
It's the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's hammer out number 10 here on this list of the Georgia Guidestones. And, of course, if you want to weigh in, feel free. The number is 603-283-6160.
And, all right, so number 10 is great because it's ironic. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. And it says it again. Leave room for nature. I think they're really stressing that part. And someone's like, okay. They're just following the Guidestones, and they blew it up. And they removed it, and it
to make more room for nature, right?
Yeah, exactly. Leave more room for nature. Thank you for your service, whoever did that. I don't know. Actually, I don't support what they did.
Why do people believe
if it's private property? I don't support it, but still.
Why do people believe that humans aren't nature?
I know we are nature, so give me some room, bruh.
There's more coming up here in moments. The number 603-283-6160. You can join us. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. We've been discussing the Georgia Guidestones. They are now no longer in existence, been destroyed, demolished after someone planted a bomb on one of the stones. I think it was yesterday, early morning. And since then, they've been demolished completely. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Joa.
And Joa, you've been going through the list of the inscriptions on these Guidestones. We did get through all 10 of them. The first one being the most outrageous, I think, of all of them, and that is that they want to see the humanity, whoever this mysterious group is that created these Guidestones, because it is a secretive organization apparently, that they want to see humanity reduced to 500 million in population.
They're so boast to put it on stones in public, or
Yeah.
I mean, in a public access.
It's
place.
very brazen, for sure.
Yeah.
So if you want to comment, you're welcome to join us. I do want you to know about Freedom Fest, we'll get to Freedom Fest here in a bit, but Lifetime Liberty. There's two different festivals coming up. Freedom Fest is right around the corner, starting next week on the 13th. And a little ways down the line, October 21st through the 23rd, the Liberty in Our Lifetime festival that's happening. Festival's not the right word. Convention. It's at the Free Cities Foundation annual conference happening in the city of Prague, October 21st through the 23rd. They're going to showcase autonomous cities and intentional communities springing up around the world that are offering opportunities for settlers to live freer lives. And their conference theme is Parallel Structures for Progress. They'll be exploring physical developments and parallel structures emerging in education and finance that offer alternatives for people looking for better ways to learn, educate their children, and invest in their future. So if you want to save 20% on your tickets there, use code FTL20 over on their site, lifetimeliberty.com. When you sign up, it's code FTL20 to save 20%. Again, and head over to Prague. You'll get to meet Mark Edge, our co-host. He's going to be speaking at the event there, October 21st through the 23rd in Prague. Lifetimeliberty.com with code FTL20 to save that 20%. We go to Sam. He's on the line in Ohio. You're on Free Talk Live with Ian, Bonnie, and Joa.
Yeah, I was just wanted to comment on that ninth one you were talking about, the word peace, in terms of why do people have this tie to anarchy of, like, violence and bomb throwing and versus the word voluntarist, like I agree with you, that people don't have a tie to?
Well, the answer I would think is pretty clear. It's the mainstream media, popular culture.
Mind control.
Yeah, it tends to use the term anarchist whenever there's a report about somebody who's trying to burn a building down or trying to, kill somebody or whatever. There's always some sort of, they love to tie anarchy with violence, and a lot of times they may even have like an undercover cop or some sort of agent of the state who's actually instigating that violence and doing things like spraying an anarchy logo somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think Antifa all are. They're all masked people who come from out of town to go into cities and bomb small businesses and stuff like that. Maybe like a small amount, but at least got started by the state.
It's still bark, no bite when it comes to Antifa.
But are they even claiming to be anarchists, the Antifa people?
You always hear that in the news.
Mixed in with them.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see like an Antifa in all black, but then you'll see like supposed anarchists with the very logo-esque anarchy kind of paint splatter type logo on them in red, and right next to them in all black. So, do they consider themselves anarchists? I don't know. But back to what his question was, is that it's about power, and like if you have certain kinds of power, you have to be secretive. And to maintain that power. So decompartmentalize all the aspects of war, and there's a lot of people depending on you in secret. And That's why they do all this war. It's a way for them to secretly funnel all the money up to the top.
Sure. Yeah, the military-industrial complex gets a huge amount of money out of
it's the number one on the budget every year.
Government's wars. Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just crazy, the military-industrial complex thing you're talking about, but honestly, Bonnie talking about Antifa, I think most of them are far left progressives. Maybe some of them are undercover agents, like you're saying.
Well, I don't know. I just don't ever see... I don't see... Okay, I just went to their website, to their Wikipedia to see what, Wikipedia says they are, and the second paragraph has the word anarchist in it.
Yeah.
It says they're individuals involved in the movement tend to hold anti-authoritarian, anti-capitalist, and anti-state views, and subscribing to a range of left-wing ideologies. But I don't know anybody in real life who is anti-state, anti-capitalist, and anti-authoritarian, and wants to go bomb a small business. Those things don't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's funny is I was thinking about Bernie Sanders, and he's like one state over, right?
Yep.
He says he's anti-war. He votes sometimes anti-war, but he always ends up going toward his constituents, which most of them make weapons. In Vermont.
I bet you he didn't vote against the money going to Ukraine.
No, he did not. Well, yeah. Oh, no, yeah.
I don't have the voting list in front of me, but I put money on it.
Yeah.
Sam, thanks for the call tonight, man. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, weapons made in Vermont? Somebody?
Yeah, they have a military base in Vermont, in Burlington.
But I think he's asking are there weapons manufacturing going on there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're private weapons manufacturers and that sort of thing.
But I'm saying, who specifically?
I couldn't tell you. I know there's Raytheon. I'm pretty sure Raytheon.
They're in Vermont?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I know that New Hampshire's got BAE, which is one of them.
We have Sig Sauer, right?
Well, I wouldn't call them... they make guns for average people. I think we're talking about, military weaponry kind of
I
stuff.
guess the category that would fall in is, public-private, whereas, there are companies that are private that only make things for the government.
Yeah, like
they're
bombs
completely
and jets
contracted.
and things like that. Thank you, Sam, for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. The number here is 603-283-6160. Yeah, and that's a problem with a lot of these quote-unquote anarchists who are really not anti-state, even though some might claim to be anti-state. What they actually mean is they're anti this state. They don't like the current status of the state. They want their system to be forced down everyone's throats, whatever the hell that would be. And it would probably be, some socialist democracy or whatever. So unless you're against all states...
It's kind of like the Anti-Federalist Papers.
You're not anti-state.
Listen to this word. It says, a majority of individuals involved are anarchists, communists, and socialists who describe themselves as revolutionaries. And it's just just in that sentence, they mix together communism, socialism, and anarchy as if it's all the same thing or
Not
even
at all.
remotely similar. You can't be an anarchist and be a communist or a socialist.
And their argument would be like, Antifa's a mindset, not a political,
That sounds pretty political to me.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
But that's the wiki doesn't speak for them now, does it? Do they?
If you're an Antifa and you want to call in tonight to talk about it, you're certainly welcome to join us at 603-283-6160.
I agree with Joa that it's kind of one of those things that to me it seems like, bark and no bite. I've never heard of anyone in my life actually be an Antifa member. I've never seen somebody say they supported them.
Actually, I take that back about Wiki. Reason did a small video on YouTube about how Wiki, all the political stuff, is run by leftists. But things like sports and maybe other things that are not political are run by everyone else.
There's more on the way. If you want to join the show, 603-283-6160. You can take control of the airwaves on Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive.
It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave number 10 Downing Street sooner rather than later, after he announced on Thursday that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The Prime Minister never used the word resign in his statement outside number 10 and insisted he plans to remain as a caretaker PM until the party has a chance to elect a new leader. As FSN's reporter in London, Ollie Barrett, reports.
There are those calls from some quite high-profile voices for Boris Johnson to go immediately, for an interim Prime Minister to be put in place between Boris Johnson and whoever takes over as the next Conservative leader and therefore Prime Minister. Allies of Boris Johnson will say to you there is precedent for this. When he came to power, Theresa May held on as caretaker Prime Minister to smooth the transition. But the reason there are such loud calls in sections of the Conservative Party for Boris Johnson to go now is that the trust has been broken to such an extent between him and some of those Conservative MPs, and that's why they worry about him remaining in place for what could last over a period of weeks, if not months.
Meanwhile, the White House insists the relationship between the US and the UK will be unaffected. But our US correspondent Simon Marks says there's already been one immediate impact.
Britain's Foreign Secretary Liz Truss left Bali, where she was due to be meeting G20 foreign ministers, including, of course, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, to set the stage for the G20 summit that will be held in Bali in November. Big issues on the agenda for those conversations, of course, including whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be welcomed at the G20 summit itself. Antony Blinken's plane arrived after Liz Truss had already beat a retreat back to London.
The former US police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd has been sentenced to another 21 years in prison for violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty to the charge in December in a deal that could see him move to a prison with more favourable conditions. Business and the S&P 500 has matched its longest winning streak of the year, reporting gains for the fourth straight day in a row, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow was up by more than 1% on Monday, gaining 300 points. And after recording its worst first half of the year since 1970 last week, the S&P's now matched its longest winning streak of the year, closing up for the fourth day in a row by 1.5%. It's prompting hopes of a stronger market going into the third quarter. The Nasdaq also rose by more than 2%. That was helped by some well-performing tech stock. Chipmaker Nvidia was up by nearly 5% after Samsung reported an 11% increase in profits and a 21% jump in revenue.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. Looks like there's a protest planned for this Saturday here in New Hampshire. And normally I wouldn't tell you about that because, well, there's plenty of protests that go on in New Hampshire. But this one's pretty interesting because it's already getting press. Normally, when people go out to Keene Central Square, it's just sort of a regular occurrence. I mean, it's not really something that stirs up news coverage. But this one is. And so the fact that the anti-Free State Project protest is being covered by the mainstream media, in this case the Union Leader, which is the largest newspaper in the state of New Hampshire, that the fact that they're covering this thing in advance is an indication that this is a pretty important event. And it is, because the Free State Project is being targeted by a group of Democrats, specifically in this case the Cheshire County Democrats, who are planning what they're calling an anti-Free State Project protest for Saturday afternoon to call out project members who run for office as Republicans and sometimes Democrats to subvert what the Democrats call, quote-unquote, common good policies across the state.
So they're trying to say that Free Staters shouldn't, subvert undercover go into the Republicans and run as Republicans, but they're also trying to say that Free Staters are far right.
Well, we're going to get into that coming up here in a moment. I think you're right. They do actually say in their flyer that they cooked up for this because the reporter in this case from the Union Leader actually sent it to me. It says here it's a rally to take back New Hampshire from the far right and the Free State Project. And they put quotes around the Free State Project.
Maybe my sign's going to say anti-slave state.
Love it. All right,
Nice.
so we'll talk more about this coming up here in moments. But first, Major Payne is on the line. Go ahead, Major.
Hey guys,
Hey.
I got a couple of goodies for you, but real quick, I want to just say that as far as this BLM black fly splatter, I think these guys have shot their wad. I don't think they have any standing to talk about anymore.
Okay, we weren't talking about Black Lives Matter, but I will say this.
You're talking about Antifa. They're all in the same.
That's not fair. That's not a fair statement. The Black Lives Matter was the summer of 2020. There was a lot of press surrounding, of course, the strangling of a man in where the hell was that?
Minneapolis.
Thank you, Minneapolis. George Floyd.
George Floyd.
And people were rightfully upset about that, and they are rightfully upset about police violence and police abuse of peaceful people. Now, the one thing I didn't agree with when it came to a lot of those protests was they only seemed to care about police violence. Some of the protesters only seemed to care about police violence against black people, and I think there's police violence against all people that's happening out there. Police will murder you if you don't do what they tell you to do in the order that they tell you to do it in, or
It just
whatever.
doesn't always make the news.
Well, yeah, it doesn't always. Certainly not in the same way if it's like a white cop killing a black guy. There's no doubt that's more likely to make headlines.
No, I'm just saying, it happens every day. It doesn't make the news every single time.
It certainly doesn't make national news. I mean, usually a cop shooting a person will probably get a headline in a local newspaper. I mean, that's probably going to happen.
I think Antifa kind of consumed Black Lives Matter. They kind of morphed.
Did you ever go to one of the Black Lives Matter rallies?
I saw they were marching down the street here in town when I was working on a job one day. I saw them go by about a block and a half away. It was just a bunch of teenage kids with signs hollering crazy.
I went to a protest that turned out to be a Black Lives Matter rally.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't how it was advertised to me. It was advertised to me as an abolish the police rally.
Did you feel like Antifa took over the rally?
I didn't see any Antifa. No. There were, the biggest crowd I've ever been in my life, completely filling the streets of downtown San Antonio, and it never got violent, not one bit.
Yeah, that was my experience here in New Hampshire as well, where I attended more than one Black Lives Matter rally, and I didn't see any visible Antifa. They might have been there, but they certainly weren't like, leading the rally or anything like that.
I've been to Black Lives Matter protests in Providence, and I was assaulted by somebody, but that's... he wasn't even black, and
what was it over?
So I guess some lady got on them, like there was letting people speak about their oppression from the police, and we're right in front of the Providence police station, and one lady got up and she wasn't black, she was white, and she was talking about how her son got beaten up by a cop, and her son's white, and they're like, someone was like yelling at her and saying, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. We're here for black people." And like what you were saying, it's about everybody.
Yeah.
And then somebody else was defending her and what she had to say. And then the next thing you know, they're attacking this person. And then I'm defending both of those two people because I'm starting to speak out. I'm not going to just let one person speak out. I'm going to be the third person. And then next thing you know, I'm being pushed out of the protest. And the cops are all right there. Dozens of cops. Did nothing about it.
Yeah, so some people are so dumb, like they want to be out there protesting about the current thing, quote unquote, but they don't actually have any morals. Like my sister actually just got assaulted at I mean, I wasn't there. An pro-abortion rally in Austin, Texas. There was a man who pushed her up against a car and she had like a bruise. She called the cops over that, which is dumb. But if it's true, the story that karma. Yeah, but if it's true, the story that she told, then a man went to protest for the rights of women in the streets of San Antonio and assaulted a woman.
Yeah, so
people are so stupid.
To go back to your point, Major, about Black Lives Matter, I think there's something that needs to be clarified, and that is that there's Black Lives Matter, the movement of individuals, and then there's Black Lives Matter, the organization of communists. And so...
Yeah, that's the one my beef is with.
Okay, well, that's the thing. You got to be clear, right? Because when I was down at Black Lives Matter, the protests that happened here in New Hampshire, I'm sure there were some commies that were there, but the messaging, at least here in Keene, which, like you said, Bonnie, it was the biggest protest I've ever seen in Little Keene, New Hampshire. There must have been 300 people in a square that gets busy with 150. I mean, it was packed. And but the messaging was all anti-cop, pro-police accountability, that kind of stuff. Yeah. People telling their stories about being abused by the police, and it was not Black Lives Matter communist propaganda at all in that particular case. So just to be clear, thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The number is 603-283-6160, because I agree when it comes to police violence, police being out of control, police being corrupt, police killing innocent, peaceful people. And I can certainly acknowledge that brown and black people are killed more often by, as far as per capita or whatever, than other people by the police. But that doesn't mean the cops aren't out there killing all kinds of different colors of people. And I
would
think
say generally that, brown or black people are oppressed more in general on all kinds of levels.
Sure.
Like just going to the DMV, just trying to get any sort of redress of grievances, applying for permits or licensing, all these hoops they make us go through. Those laws were not written for white people. They were written for slaves.
Yeah, and that's why
now
cops came
everyone
about.
falls under these laws. Go ahead.
Oh, that's why cops became a thing, because they were supposed to be runaway slave
catchers.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and you're pointing out here, Joe, that now everyone's a slave, right? They've expanded slavery.
Yeah, and it's like as if we're supposed to make black people free first, and that's what they're trying to say. Like Black Lives Matter, worry about the rest later. And like, I disagree with that, and I'm gonna get a lot of flack from that. But you know what? The truth is that everyone, it doesn't matter what skin color you are. We're all bleeding red. That's the only thing that really matters. Is that we're all humans with a heartbeat.
Humans matter. That's a great point. It would be great if we could get past race and just see people as individual human beings who have rights. And the only way we're getting to that point is by talking about it.
I'll tell you what, blue lives don't matter.
There's more coming up here at 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want. I want to get into what's happening here. There's this protest scheduled here in New Hampshire. It's people who are anti-Free State Project. And I want you to ask yourself, if you're a libertarian activist, has your movement where you live ever been protested by the status quo? It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
The easiest thing in the world for a reader to do is to stop reading, according to the late, great Barney Kilgore, who became managing editor of the Wall Street Journal in 1941 and grew the paper's circulation from 33,000 to 1 million by the 60s. And he'd be pleased to know that his paper is one of the few that people now pay to read online. Someone else pre-internet who realized that attention is fragile? Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. In the early 60s, when his label dominated the charts, he'd bring a dozen real people into the Hitsville, USA studios and audition songs. And he'd ask, if you were down to your last dollar, would you spend it on this record or would you buy a sandwich? Today, attention span seems like an oxymoron. For tips on cutting through the clutter, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones open if you want to join in here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live brought to you by some of the great supporters of this program, like Nathan, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS Patreon. And Nathan is silver level, which is all we ask for is $5 a month, and he's helping us out over there at amps.freetalklive.com. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. It's a way for you to get behind the show financially and get some cool benefits. We definitely appreciate the support. Thank you, Nathan. You can go to amps.freetalklive.com to find our Patreon there. Get signed up with your PayPal, your debit card, or your credit card. Once again, it's amps.freetalklive.com. So we're looking forward to an event we just found out today is going to be happening on Saturday. The mainstream media is already covering this. Now, the Free State Project has seen a series of protests, anti-Free State protests that have been happening all across the state. I have not heard of one getting press attention at all prior to now, certainly not in advance of the event actually happening. So this could be the big one.
Hashtag winning.
Exactly. And the reason why this is winning is because when you're over, the old saying is you don't take flack unless you're over the target. If you're not making people angry, you're not doing it right.
I tell you, I got some trolls in the chat right now.
Oh, they're always in there.
I wasn't going to recognize them, but I wanted to say this, but until I had trolls, like
you were nobody.
That means you've made a certain level where there's haters that are passionate enough to follow every single move you make.
Yeah.
I think a lot of feds or actual cops or cop family or something like that, and I think a lot of the trolls online are literally paid to sit there and be trolls, because who would waste their time like that?
Cop suckers,
There are cop suckers
I
out
think
there.
that you're right, though, Bonnie. I think some amount of them are actual paid people. Now, who's paying them, whether it's the police or some other anti-freedom organization or whatever, that's up for speculation.
Because who
obviously
has
they're never
3
gonna tell
hours
you.
a night? It's every single
Yeah,
night.
every single night these people are in there. In the same way, whenever you go live on Breaking the Flaw, which is your channel where you do police accountability and government accountability stuff, it's on Odyssey. So check out Joe over there. But as soon as you hit that go live button, man, they just come on in from wherever it is they come from.
Bring it on. More viewers. I love it, guys. You guys are making
it just
me
helps
money.
The numbers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And if you're going to do it, go to my Odyssey channel.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Odyssey.
You're on YouTube too, right?
Yeah, but don't do that. Video.freetalklive.com takes you to our Odyssey channel. So you hit the subscribe button there and then just search for Breaking the Flaw, and that'll take you right over to Joe's channel. So, but you're right. If you don't have haters, you're not as effective as you could be.
Yeah.
You've got to when you get those haters, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is you can't let them get to you. You can't let them tweak you or whatever. You can't obsess over them. And that said, I do plan to go to this particular protest because, well, why wouldn't we want to counter protest a protest?
They're crying out.
They want attention.
Let's give them the attention that they want.
Yeah, and ultimately, the reason why we want to go to this isn't to. I don't want to fight with these people. Okay, I'm not interested in that.
No.
I really hope nothing like that happens.
No, it's going to be a bunch of elderly people. Like, there's not going to be Antifa or anybody like that. It's going to be if there's anyone there under the age of 40, I will be shocked. This is the Cheshire County Democrats. It's a bunch of white hairs that meet in a room once a month and plot the end of civilization or whatever, right? So they're going out, and the reason to go to this is to get documentation that it happened. Right, I want to go and get a picture. I want to see their signs. I want to see the creativity or what, if there is any. Because so far, these anti-Free State Project events have been pathetic.
I like to hear their argument too. Like
if they're willing to even talk. They may not even be willing to speak to
protest?
you.
Well, I think a big reason we should show up is because we need to have signs saying what we're actually about, because this is basically just a smear campaign. They want to say I mean, like that flyer that they put out basically insinuates that Free State Project members are far right, I mean, that's an absolute lie. It couldn't be any further from the truth.
But here's the thing. When you show up and you talk to these anti-freedom groups, almost every single time, the lower people in the group, the non-leader types, they will defer. They'll say, well, I can't talk to you about that. You need to talk to my handler.
Leader.
My leader over here, my
this
spokesperson.
is silent protest. Like,
yes.
I love those.
Yes. Yeah, and it's perfectly on display in the movie Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I do remember that. Yes. Yep.
Well, in that particular movie, for those that haven't seen it, Derek J goes to a college in Plymouth, actually, and they're having a protest against guns on campus. And he sees that happening because there was supposed to be a pro-guns on campus event that day. So students were quote unquote protesting against it. And so he walks up to this one, 4 or 5. He walks up to one of them, and he just starts asking him questions about, what's your sign about, right? And the kid starts answering the questions for like a minute,
like having a really
a good
friendly conversation.
Yeah. And then like the handler, right?
And then the teacher comes over and she tugs on his shirt or whatever, and she says, "Oh, we're having a silent protest today."
He probably whispered in his ear, "It's like, I'm gonna give you a B."
Well, I don't think that happened, at least in front of the cameras. But
no, I know. But like, why else would this kid be doing this?
He admitted it was a class assignment.
Oh,
in the conversation.
I'm not too far off.
This is why it was supposed to be a silent protest, because she doesn't want the media to know that it's a total sham.
That the kids don't know why they're protesting, what they're protesting.
They didn't even make the signs themselves. The teacher made the signs. She did the work, and then she handed it to them. Yeah,
that's really
total
gross.
top down. Right.
That reminds me of like the Hillary when Hillary was running in, like, I think it was 2008, I believe. But like she had a rally, and there was this. I remember seeing the same person painting all these grassroots looking signs, but it was obviously made by the same person. Yeah. You're not hiding anything.
Well, now look, there's nothing wrong with making extra signs for a protest. Right, like that's a good plan, because
fair enough.
If we call for a protest this weekend, and we want people to show up, we can't expect them to bring their own signs.
No.
They're just not going to. You have to have signs for people at a protest.
But this was the campaign.
But this was the woman who is in charge of these people. So this isn't a grassroots thing at all. This is teacher says we have to go do this if we want to get a good grade or we want to get bonus points or whatever.
And God forbid you try to go against your teacher's politics if it's a class assignment.
So she went and used her power over these individuals to encourage them, quote unquote, to participate in this. And that's totally different.
That's the system that they use. Sorry, go ahead.
If he would have continued his conversation with Derek J could have, convinced him he was on the wrong side. So she couldn't have that.
No.
Exactly.
You can't use logic. You just got to have control.
That's why my prediction is tomorrow, if you go and you try to talk to some of these protesters.
It's not tomorrow, right?
Thank you. It's not tomorrow. It's Saturday. If you go and you try to talk to some of these people, they're going to blow you off. They're going to say, you need to talk to our spokesperson.
Well, if they're listening now, and maybe some of them are, and they know that we're going to be showing up because we said so, just don't be that kind of person. Have an
opinion.
Yeah, have an opinion. A free
be willing
thought
to talk
on
about
your
it.
own. Even if you're wrong, you got to be okay with being wrong sometimes. And that you only learn from others and from learn for yourself is by making mistakes. You don't always get it right the first time, and you might be passionate about something, but might as well listen, because there's no logic in what you're doing.
You're only going to know that you've gone wrong by talking to people who disagree.
That's right.
And that is going to be, again, if this is anything like a lot of these top-down protests, that is going to not be allowed. Oh, we're not going to talk today. And the same thing happened years ago with the Free Keene protest here that happened against freekeene.com, which is my blog site. This was like 2014. When I first heard about this, she had the news reporter who clued me in. She wanted comment for the story that I'll share with you here in a moment. She had said that it was an anti-Free Keene event, but when I called her up, I was like, "There hasn't been an anti-Free Keene protest since 2014. What did we do?" And it turns out it's actually an anti-Free State Project protest that's going to be happening for the first time in Keene Central Square coming up this Saturday. But the anti-Free Keene one was the same way. If you walked up and talked to those people, they would not comment. They were told by whoever their organizer was to not speak to anyone else when they come up to speak to you, because they don't have an opinion. They're just there because someone told them to go, or they're mad at us for X, Y, or Z, but they don't have anything defensible to say. They
probably get a gift card. No, I'm just kidding.
Who knows?
It's just like the gun buybacks, they get gift cards.
It's not unheard of.
A lot of people are just love to be hateful. They don't know why they don't like Ian, and they just don't like Ian. I mean, as far as the anti-Free State Project people in Keene, a lot of them just don't like Ian for no reason.
I don't know if there's going to be anti-Ian stuff tomorrow. It doesn't seem like that kind of an event. This, I think, is going to focus on the Free State Project. So I'm very interested to see how this goes.
It's iffy.
We'll tell you more about it coming up here in Hour 3.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave number 10 Downing Street sooner rather than later, after he announced on Thursday that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The Prime Minister never used the word resign in his statement outside number 10 and insisted he plans to remain as a caretaker PM until the party has a chance to elect a new leader. As FSN's reporter in London, Ollie Barrett, reports.
There are those calls from some quite high-profile voices for Boris Johnson to go immediately, for an interim Prime Minister to be put in place between Boris Johnson and whoever takes over as the next Conservative leader and therefore Prime Minister. Allies of Boris Johnson will say to you there is precedent for this. When he came to power, Theresa May held on as caretaker Prime Minister to smooth the transition. But the reason there are such loud calls in sections of the Conservative Party for Boris Johnson to go now is that the trust has been broken to such an extent between him and some of those Conservative MPs, and that's why they worry about him remaining in place for what could last over a period of weeks, if not months.
Meanwhile, the White House insists the relationship between the US and the UK will be unaffected. But our US correspondent Simon Marks says there's already been one immediate impact.
Britain's Foreign Secretary Liz Truss left Bali, where she was due to be meeting G20 foreign ministers, including, of course, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, to set the stage for the G20 summit that will be held in Bali in November. Big issues on the agenda for those conversations, of course, including whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be welcomed at the G20 summit itself. Antony Blinken's plane arrived after Liz Truss had already beat a retreat back to London.
The former US police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd has been sentenced to another 21 years in prison for violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty to the charge in December in a deal that could see him move to a prison with more favourable conditions. Business and the S&P 500 has matched its longest winning streak of the year, reporting gains for the fourth straight day in a row, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow was up by more than 1% on Monday, gaining 300 points. And after recording its worst first half of the year since 1970 last week, the S&P's now matched its longest winning streak of the year, closing up for the fourth day in a row by 1.5%. It's prompting hopes of a stronger market going into the third quarter. The Nasdaq also rose by more than 2%. That was helped by some well-performing tech stock. Chipmaker Nvidia was up by nearly 5% after Samsung reported an 11% increase in profits and a 21% jump in revenue.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the thoughts of a prominent member of Britain's governing Conservative Party on how the party itself needs to get back on track once it puts the premiership of Boris Johnson behind it. Baroness Sayeeda Warsi was the first Muslim ever to serve in a British cabinet, and then at the age of 36 became the youngest member of the House of Lords. A lawyer, businesswoman and campaigner against Islamophobia, she looks forward to the days when the Conservative Party has a new leader.
For me, the bigger issue is not so much the colour or the gender of the person who seeks to lead us. It's whether or not they are genuinely a centre-ground Conservative. And I genuinely hope, with all my heart, that the party finds its way back from the terrible kind of nationalistic space that it's been in recently, the culture wars. And we keep presenting ourselves as these great patriots and defenders of our country. And, often I look at some of my colleagues in government and it feels like, the arsonists have taken over the country and they're setting it alight, but they're basically dressed up as patriots. And I just want genuine, patriotic Conservatives who believe in the rule of law and democracy and decency to come back and bring this party back into the centre ground.
But it is far from inevitable that the next party leader and thus the next UK Prime Minister will exhibit those qualities. A tussle lies ahead whenever the next leadership contest begins. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave sooner rather than later after he announced that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The former US police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd has been sentenced to another 21 years in prison for violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. And the S&P 500 has matched its longest winning streak of the year, reporting 4 straight days of gains. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
When 16-year-old Jeffrey Patterson died in a car accident in February, he didn't just leave behind grieving friends and family, he also left a significant web presence. In a tribute to their son, Jeff's parents have continued to update their son's blogs and social media sites, including a blog called Shitbirds Everywhere.
Well, Jeff used his blog to make fun of stupid shitbirds. Yeah. And now that we're doing this, it's like part of him is still alive.
Yeah, and then when I post a picture of some shitbird who has a stupid ankle tattoo or wears some retarded hat, I feel like somewhere he's smiling.
He hated retarded hats so much.
Whenever we get a comment calling Jeff a dumb fag for making fun of a handicapped person on a rascal scooter, well, it's like he's still here. Jeff would have gotten such a kick out of that fat shitbird. He really would have.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join the show here. The number for you is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Joa.
We are sharing a story. We barely scratched the surface on it. It's by the Union Leader. That is the mainstream top newspaper. Yeah. Well, I'll give this lady credit who wrote the story. She's actually been pretty good at covering news related to Free Staters in
we should be nice to them
in Keene. Her name's Megan Pierce. She actually was the one who broke the story about the Robin Hooders many years ago. And it was her Robin Hooder coverage. For listeners that don't know, we made international news headlines here in Keene back almost a decade ago now at this point. But we made major headlines and got millions of dollars worth of free coverage from companies as large as ABC News and Good Morning America or whatever.
Colbert.
Colbert Report did a report on us as well. So I mean, it's almost incalculable how much free coverage we got.
Or the tens of views on YouTube. I was one of the tens of views.
So, but we did get a lot of international coverage. And
Wait,
it was
didn't
actually,
Colbert have someone on?
No.
Oh.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he did.
Yeah, no, he interviewed all of
Yeah,
you
I mean,
guys.
they said a crew here. I thought you meant were we in their studio.
Well,
No, we weren't in
I
the
didn't
studio.
mean it like that. So who was on?
James Cleveland and Garrett Ian and Chris Cantwell.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you should see the
It's crazy.
Cantwell part. It's
No, I
kind of
haven't seen it.
If you have a sense of humor, you'll enjoy it. If you have no sense of humor, you'll hate it. There's some people. Some people actually accused us of destroying the libertarian movement after this because we had fun.
Destroying.
Yeah. We had fun and allowed ourselves to be made fun of because that's what happens, right? Like if Stephen Colbert calls you up, and it wasn't him, it was his producers, obviously. But if his people call you up and they want you to be on his show, you're going to get lampooned.
Like
that's
I
what's
just
going to
want to
happen.
mention my favorite part of that whole interview is like one of the guys, one of the parking meter guys, had to quit.
Yeah.
And then they asked him, what was worse, going to war or being a parking enforcer? And he's like, being a parking enforcer.
Oh my God.
You gotta be kidding me.
He said it.
Wow.
And people razzed him after that, too. It was hilarious. So, anyway, this is the same lady. She wrote that story that caught fire a decade ago. So who knows? Maybe this one's going to take off,
I
too.
hope so.
But here it is from the union leader. So the Cheshire County Democrats are planning a anti-Free State Project protest rally. Now, interestingly, the reporter left out that this is an anti-far right. So they're protesting, quote, the rally is to, quote unquote, take back New Hampshire from the far right and the Free State Project. And as you pointed out, Bonnie, the Free Staters aren't far right. We're libertarians. But that's what they're doing here. They're trying to mix us together as though we're the same.
A lot of people listening might be like, far right isn't libertarian far right, because that word has been so watered down. It makes me really sad. It describes what I am perfectly, but people nowadays really think of it as some kind of a different conservative. So, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous, but it's just how the average person thinks.
I like to remind people out there in general, if you have misconceptions about libertarianism, generally, they just want to take over the world and then leave you alone. Okay? We don't want to meddle in your lives. We don't care what you people do. You can believe all these things you want to do and have your private clubs to have like some sort of collective stance on these things, but don't force everyone else into these ideas. And we're not trying to force our ideals onto you either, because you still have these freedoms to be part of these subjugated groups. Just don't force me into it, or
it's like
other people that don't consent.
What part do you not like about it? The part where I can't tell you how to live your life, or the part where you can't tell me how to live mine? That's basically sums it up.
So they're having this rally on Saturday afternoon to call out project members who run for office as Republicans and sometimes Democrats to subvert quote-unquote common good policies and laws across the state. And they interviewed...
Do they think that Republicans don't run on common good stuff?
Oh, that's what they're saying. They are saying that Free Staters are against the common good.
Yeah, but a typical Republican doesn't run on, saying common good, things for the common good. It's just a Democrat thing.
These are the Democrats who are protesting.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's not like people are running under the Republican umbrella and doing something, I don't know, we aren't... The Republicans weren't doing that anyway. They weren't. They just
right. They're saying the
out.
Democrats are saying that the quote unquote far right and the Free State Project are subverting common good policies. So they're saying that we are against the common good, meaning that that's what they're accusing Republicans on the far right and the Free Staters of.
Yeah, but they're simultaneously trying to say, like, these people aren't real Republicans.
That's
at least that's something they say a lot.
Yeah, that's what they're saying that.
And well, Republicans didn't run on that to begin with, so it's just...
I don't think they are saying that Republicans were running that way. This is obviously going to be an anti-Republican rally to some extent. That's why they're attacking the quote-unquote far right. The Democrats are the ones who want to position themselves as being in favor of the common good. They've always been like that, so there's nothing new with that particular viewpoint. And of course, that does deserve a further discussion, and that is to say, what is the common good? And who decides?
The common good is never just decided by a small group of people for the rest of us.
I just don't like the term common good as something to describe such a peaceful society. I mean...
Well, what it actually means is, I think, Bonnie, you were hinting at this, is that the Democrats, or whoever the small group is that's in charge of the state, they decide what is for the common good. And we know what they mean when they say that. It means they're buddies, the people that are in the military-industrial complex or whatever.
Like instead of non-archy, we could have monarchy.
Yep.
And even though the Republicans don't.
Well, if we have a good queen that believes in the common good, then it's fine.
And even though the Republicans don't use the same lingo, they still believe in the same thing, and that is to say that their small group should be the one that should be in charge and force what they believe is good down everybody else's throats. In their case, it might be, anti-abortion laws or religious mandates or whatever. So they interviewed a man named Mohammed A. Saleh, who is the chairman of the Cheshire County Democrats. Now, I'm not familiar with this person, although maybe I would recognize him if I saw him. He said, quote, now here's your endorsement for the Free State Project. Okay. Quote, they are no longer a fringe element, unquote. And
nice.
That means that we are, we meaning the larger migration of libertarians here, are making an impact.
We broke that threshold. So we're no longer fringe.
Correct.
Which is like a few.
No longer able to be ignored.
That means we're mainstream, doesn't it? If you're not fringe, aren't you mainstream?
Can we please not? I don't want to be called mainstream.
Are you a hipster?
Though we are on 190 radio stations.
That's true. Free Staters, so the Cheshire County Democrats say that 50 members of the state's legislature are members of the Free State Project. That's even more than I had heard. The Free Staters, the Free State Project officially has been promoting 40 and some, 44 or 45. But now the haters are saying we got 50. That's awesome. That is,
nice.
There's 400 legislators in the state government. So
oh no, some people using the system that the Democrats also want to utilize voted in some people who believe in freedom. What's the big deal?
You know what's funny too is a lot of these free staters that come here, not all of them are really voting. So they're not part of this democratic system that these Democrats are all for and about. We're taking over because we won't have to vote you people out. We won't have to vote people in. We can start a community side by side with this system that's failing, and we can be like, hey, we got a system that's better over here. And that's what's beautiful about this state. We don't need to vote our way out of this system. We are just doing it by paying our way out of this system.
You can create an alternative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, put your money where your mouth where your mouth is, and just vote with your dollars, all these things, right? That fall into place to making the change without actually have to go through these convoluted systems of politics and putting signs in our front yard. No, we can start this without actually voting. And we are doing it.
Free Staters, they say here, are starting to have an impact on New Hampshire on a state level and increasingly in small towns such as Croydon. This March, Saleh said Free Staters living in Croydon gutted the small town school budget, causing residents to rise up and refund it at a special school district meeting. The event even drew national attention, he said. And we'll tell you more about why these Democrats are so mad. They're taken to the streets against the Free State Project coming up this weekend here in Little Keene, New Hampshire. There's more on the way, and you can share your thoughts as well on Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Free Talk Live.
For me, it's fighting negativity, and the negativity is my thoughts in my head that are negative. And I had to learn to recognize when my thoughts were being negative, because most of my life, most of my thoughts were negative. Mm-hmm. So I had to become aware of when they were happening. And when I become aware of these negative thoughts pervading my thinking, I immediately fight them with positive thoughts. And most of the positive thoughts that I feed myself are positive affirmations about who I am, where I'm going, where I've come from.
Whenever I find myself thinking negatively, I don't consider it fighting the negative thoughts. I just consider it changing my train of thought. I just kind of change tracks to a positive thought and just focus on that.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here and bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about the Anti-Free State Project protest that's scheduled for this weekend here in New Hampshire. The reason why is because, well, the Free State Project is actually an effective political movement, unlike the rest of libertarians everywhere else on the planet. If you actually want to have an effect, then try this. Concentrate your activism in one small geographic place with other like-minded activists. That's the Free State Project's concept. It's been in play now for almost 20 years here in New Hampshire.
But I want to live in a city in California and also be free.
Well, you're going to lose. I'm sorry to say. I mean, if you like to win, come here.
Great news. There's a Free Socialist Project, I think it's called, and
the Progressive State Project.
The Progressive State Project. They will actually help you move out of New Hampshire.
That's true.
So maybe
no
that's
joke. That's a real
maybe
thing.
that's what we should be advertising to them tomorrow.
Oh
or
yeah.
Today,
That's
tomorrow, Saturday.
That's an
Bring
amazing
out flyers
idea.
for that's a great
the
idea.
Progressive State Project. Here you go. We'll help you move.
Do they have flyers? I mean,
I don't
it
know,
started as a joke, by the way. The
No,
Progressive State Project was created by libertarians in New Hampshire as a joke, but like they are seriously offering help to people who want to leave New Hampshire who are statists.
Yep, like monetary help for moving.
You just have to agree to never come back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not going to buy you a bus ticket unless you actually say something that put it in writing. You know,
Well, when's the last time
I'm
they
leaving.
actually followed through with social contracts? So
Yeah,
I
that's a
didn't
good point.
mean. This is a bad deal to start with.
We go to your phone calls here. We'll tell you more about this protest that's scheduled for this weekend on Saturday here in Little Keene, New Hampshire. The Democrats are putting together an anti-Free State Project protest. But first, Eli is on the line in Missouri. You're on Free Talk Live, Eli.
Yeah, man. I was just curious, kind of like you guys' thoughts. I don't get to listen all the time, but I'm
kind of a long-time listener.
Welcome. Go ahead.
As far as like the Democrat-Republican thing, it seems like when a lot of people, I don't know, I probably spend too much time on Reddit, but a lot of people, when the first part of their comment, it starts with something about a Democrat or something about a Republican, and it just seems like it's been so consistently divisive. I don't know how like libertarians get past that to break those people away that are, you know, kind of on one side or the other, not even really looking to be libertarian, but they're just arguing amongst themselves almost regressively.
I feel like libertarians, especially like these outspoken ones in the conventions and running for office, they're kind of like edgelordy, you know, and they don't get offended very easily. It would have to be something really extreme, if anything. I don't think I've ever seen them really offended at the convention and stuff, but they can take a punch a little bit more politically. They're not afraid of any, you know, cobwebs, whereas these Republicans and Democrats, they try to live to a T so nothing comes out when they really,
and
you know, go into Epstein's Island.
I guess that's what I'm kind of wondering. Like, how do we pull those people away? Like, I have friends and family that are like that, and they're either on one side or the other, but they never lean towards libertarian. They're more just like yelling about the other side. And
do you want to answer the question, Bonnie?
Yeah, I think it's a little hard because I don't really believe in trying to convince people anymore. Like, anytime I get in a fight with my parents, I just end up upset and accomplishing nothing because they're really, really Republican, you know. And I care about my family, so I want to, you know, be able to explain to them ideas that will liberate them and their minds and their children that they still have, and it just is really it's a waste of time, really.
You can only lead someone. You can only lead the horse to water. You know, it's like you can't hold their hand every time.
And that's
lead by example.
Exactly, and also that's why the migration of liberty-minded people to one geographic area is so important to me. It's because there's just never going to be a majority of people or maybe I don't want to say never, but I don't think that it's going to be easier to create a majority of people in the United States that are liberty-loving than it is to just move the people who already think that way to one place.
No doubt. I'm on your side on this one, Bonnie, and I'm somebody who's done outreach for the last basically 2 decades of my life when I became a libertarian.
And I've listened to you do it, Ian. So
thanks, Eli. I appreciate that.
That's where I come to this conclusion. And
yeah, so I mean, I agree with what Bonnie's saying here, and the reason why you don't want to waste your time on dyed-in-the-wool statists, the hard left or the hard right, these people who are just completely brainwashed into statism, whatever their flavor of it is because there are so many better prospects out there. You know, if you think about the average people in the United States, they are not people who listen to talk radio. They are not people who watch the news. They are people who just want to live their lives. A lot of them do want to be left alone. But they don't think about the issues. They don't think about what the controversies are out there. They're frustrated by the fact that stuff's going on. They just want to go to work and take care of their families or whatever. And I think what's going to happen, at least here in New Hampshire,
apathy.
What's that?
That apathy, for sure.
There's a lot of apathy. There's no doubt about it. And so I think what you're going to see happen is as we get more liberty-loving activists to migrate to New Hampshire, as we get more and more success stories. Right here, the people who hate us are saying we are no longer a fringe element. Libertarians, no longer a fringe element in New Hampshire. We have over 50, they say approximately 50 members of the state's legislature are free staters. This is what our haters are admitting to. This is a huge endorsement. So as we continue to be successful, as we get to 100 members of the legislature, to 200, once we hit 200, we're at half here in New Hampshire. As we continue,
I believe
to
we'll
build,
get there soon.
I think it's going to happen. What's going to happen with all these average folks out there? Not the ones you're talking about, Eli. Not the politicos. Not the people that are going to be at this protest, the people that hate us or the statists, but the average people out there. They're going to start saying things like, "Oh yeah, I've always agreed with the libertarians." They're gonna be on board. They're gonna join the parade.
It's gonna be so mainstream.
It's gonna become mainstream. That's not to say that they're gonna become activists or anything like that. They're probably not gonna do that. But they'll be saying, like, somebody will say something to them at work, like one of these Democrats or the hard right person or whoever. They'll be around the water cooler and they'll say, "Can you believe what those free staters did? They just abolished the government schools." And they'll say something like, "I've always thought those schools sucked," or whatever, right?
And hey, Eli, I don't know, where are you from right now?
Missouri.
Unfortunately. Well, I tell you what, get here sooner than later. It's easier sooner. And, just be part of this, man. It's a beautiful thing. You'd be shocked. It really opened up my eyes when I came here and how welcoming it was and how, the community is so strong. And it's a force that the state will never want to reckon with because, and I don't like to talk about it like that, but they can't stop this.
It's getting too big.
Oh, yeah.
It's out of their control at this point.
I was just thinking about the family that invited us over for Thanksgiving and how it really feels like those people are like my family.
Thank you, Eli, for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. And also, don't forget that even amongst those who do pay attention to politics, here in New Hampshire, the plurality of them are not Republicans or Democrats. When you look at voter registrations in New Hampshire, there's something called undeclared. So it's actually it's not a majority, but it's more. There's more undeclared voters than there are Republicans, and there's more undeclared voters than there are Democrats in New Hampshire.
So I went to these kind of, I'm going to call it right-wing leaning type event, and they were generally like free staters, but they were locals, and they were considered Republicans, but they're very liberty-minded, more so than like if you go to Mass or Rhode Island, where I'm from. There's just something else different here.
There is something special about the whole idea of live free or die. It's built in.
Exactly.
There's more on the way.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. Calls are growing for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson to leave number 10 Downing Street sooner rather than later, after he announced on Thursday that he recognises the governing Conservative Party no longer wants him as leader. The Prime Minister never used the word resign in his statement outside number 10 and insisted he plans to remain as a caretaker PM until the party has a chance to elect a new leader. As FSN's reporter in London, Ollie Barrett, reports.
There are those calls from some quite high-profile voices for Boris Johnson to go immediately, for an interim Prime Minister to be put in place between Boris Johnson and whoever takes over as the next Conservative leader and therefore Prime Minister. Allies of Boris Johnson will say to you there is precedent for this. When he came to power, Theresa May held on as caretaker Prime Minister to smooth the transition. But the reason there are such loud calls in sections of the Conservative Party for Boris Johnson to go now is that the trust has been broken to such an extent between him and some of those Conservative MPs, and that's why they worry about him remaining in place for what could last over a period of weeks, if not months.
Meanwhile, the White House insists the relationship between the US and the UK will be unaffected. But our US correspondent Simon Marks says there's already been one immediate impact.
Britain's Foreign Secretary Liz Truss left Bali, where she was due to be meeting G20 foreign ministers, including, of course, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, to set the stage for the G20 summit that will be held in Bali in November. Big issues on the agenda for those conversations, of course, including whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to be welcomed at the G20 summit itself. Antony Blinken's plane arrived after Liz Truss had already beat a retreat back to London.
The former US police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd has been sentenced to another 21 years in prison for violating Mr. Floyd's civil rights. Derek Chauvin pleaded guilty to the charge in December in a deal that could see him move to a prison with more favourable conditions. business, and the S&P 500 has matched its longest winning streak of the year, reporting gains for the fourth straight day in a row, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow was up by more than 1% on Monday, gaining 300 points. And after recording its worst first half of the year since 1970 last week, the S&P's now matched its longest winning streak of the year, closing up for the fourth day in a row by 1.5%. It's prompting hopes of a stronger market going into the third quarter. The Nasdaq also rose by more than 2%. That was helped by some well-performing tech stock. Chipmaker Nvidia was up by nearly 5% after Samsung reported an 11% increase in profits and a 21% jump in revenue.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Coming up, a man arrested in Florida. Florida man for rooster attack. Ooh. We'll tell you about that when we get the chance, but we're in the middle of a story about the haters, the statists, the anti-Free State Project protest that is scheduled for this weekend in Little Keene, New Hampshire, which happens to be where we do this show from. And there have been a series of anti-Free State Project events that have happened around the state, but they've all been relatively small. There's been maybe 3 to 5 on the heavy side, 5, typical 3 or 4.
Just like standing on the side of the road with a sign that makes almost no sense.
Or just like, god-awful.
Free staters want to raise your taxes. No, not at all.
Yeah. And then another lady was just like,
wrong.
Google Free Staters or Google Free State
Was
Project.
that the one at Croydon? Was that the Croydon one?
No,
they had some out there, too,
I think there was one in Concord.
I don't remember where they were, but the one I watched, Brian Becker went and tried to, just have normal conversations with these people, and they were doing that. You're going to have to talk to him because he's
like the chillest guy
leader.
to talk to, too.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So we'll continue the story in a moment. Sarah's on the line, though, in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, yes. I've always wanted to mention that why people still live in New Orleans or want to. It's just crazy. I've seen a show about what they want to remodel their houses, and they had 7 feet of water come ruin their house, half of their house, and then they propped it up 3 feet with a brick off the water. I mean, to me, it's insane. I mean, what makes them do that?
So the state isn't letting them or the city isn't letting them fix their houses after they get damaged with water. Is that what you're saying?
No. I don't know who's paying for it. I'm sure they're paying for it.
Well, I guess the real question to ask is why are they still paying taxes to the state when their levies failed?
That's a good point. Actually, wasn't it the Army Corps of Engineers who actually built those levees?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it was the federal government.
Are they 30 feet high? I mean, I've seen a picture of them. They're holding out ocean water with a wall. I mean, it's 30 feet high. I mean,
it's a really bad plan. There's, I don't know if that's true as far as how many feet they are, but it is
6 feet.
It's definitely a bad plan. It didn't work out real well during Hurricane Katrina.
There, so.
And I've never seen it myself, but I have actually been to New Orleans. Thank you for the call tonight, Sarah. But asking a good question, why would you continue to live in a place where you are subject to flooding if it rains heavily?
And I gotta say, it's good timing for her to mention that because it's a great warning for anyone that's in New Orleans that hurricane season is coming, and you're still there.
Does it flood every year?
Well, it was because of Katrina.
Well, yeah.
No,
I knew it flooded during. I knew the levees broke during Katrina.
Yeah. I don't know. I would say there's probably flooding happening consistently all the time.
Well,
they're probably bilging it.
If you're living below sea level, it's almost a guarantee. Right?
Yeah, they got to bilge it.
I mean, a lot of Louisiana floods. I think it was like 2016. A bunch of Louisiana was flooding just during hurricane season. It's not just New Orleans. Why people live in Louisiana, I will never understand. So, Sarah calling in to ask why people still live in New Orleans. I don't really know why anyone lives in Louisiana, at all. So
I mean, I could do this
can't answer.
for a lot of places. Why do people still live in Chicago?
Why do people live in New
Detroit?
Mexico?
Why do people live in L.A.? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't answer that for you.
A lot of people just live where they happen to be born. They never leave that place. There's a large percentage of the population that doesn't leave even to go visit anywhere else.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy to me.
So, the number here, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. So let me get back into the story here. From the union leader, they're saying that they're attacking the Free Staters. There's going to be an anti-Free State Project protest. The head of the Cheshire County Democrats, Mohammed Saleh, he said that along with school budgets, funding for roads, police, and other emergency services, they're on the line, he says. These are common good services most people agree are important for their communities, he said. Quote, sadly, the Republican Party is not standing up to them. It's time for Republicans to realize these are not Republicans. They are just extremists running under your umbrella. Do you think that Republicans are going to take this seriously, this message? From the Democrats? Like the Democrats saying, hey, buddy.
Well, since a lot of the Republicans are liberty-minded, and even libertarians under the Republican name, no, I don't think so.
I was just wondering, why would any Republican think that they were trying to help them in this way? Like, why, the Democrats want to beat you in election, so why would they be trying to help you? It doesn't make any sense.
More and more Free Staters are running for office, says the report here at the union leader, for their local school boards and as Republicans and sometimes as Democrats. On the state level, he said, they are, quote, infiltrating, unquote, the state government without revealing their free state status, he said.
You know, they wouldn't have to infiltrate other parties if the state just let anyone be on the ballot, a third party on the ballot. I mean,
I think there still would be some infiltration, Bonnie. I think that it's not fair to say that wouldn't happen. I think it still would because it's good political maneuvering and strategy. But I think you would see more libertarians running as libertarians.
Well, it wouldn't be an absolute necessity like it is now.
Quote, their goal is to win at any cost. Their alliance is not with the Democrat Party or the Republican Party, but the Republican Party has embraced them, Saleh said. He continued saying, quote, the majority leader of the state house is a Free State Project member. Again, huge endorsements here from the Democrats. And they're referring, of course, to Jason Osborne, who for many years was a sponsor of this radio program. Before he was the Jason Osborne, who's the House Majority Leader, he was Free Talk Live long-time sponsor. Saleh said this is the second such rally to be held. The first was held in Ringe a few weeks ago. Okay, I was not fully aware of that. Saleh said, quote, it can affect anybody in any town, and we should be aware that they are exploiting our lack of awareness, he said. Ian Freeman of Keene.
Aria tried to tell you that last year. Or 2020.
You mean when she ran as a Republican
that she was
sheriff
exploiting
and got
their
through the primary?
Lack of awareness.
Oh, jeez.
Ian Freeman of Keene, an active Free State Project member, not true, I'm technically not a member, said Thursday he wasn't aware, but I am a supporter, of Saturday's rally, but said it's a sign the Free State Project is making headway. Quote, this is what I told the person, they wouldn't be doing this if we weren't having an effect. It's a huge endorsement, said Freeman, adding these types of events are happening in other parts of the state as well. Quote, anywhere else you go, anywhere else in the United States, libertarians are a sideshow. The fact that there are actually protests happening all over New Hampshire is an incredible endorsement of these migrations, unquote. Freeman is a member of Free Keene, a group of Free Staters in the Keene area. He's also currently running for state senate.
Are you a member of Free Keene? That's not really like a thing.
There's
you have
no
a membership
in per se, but there are bloggers at freekeene.com, and I guess you could call those members.
You're a Free Keene blogger.
Yeah, you could call. You could call.
You're a writer.
You're a freaking blogger.
He is also currently running for state senate district 10 as a Republican. Freeman said he agrees with Saleh that no one should run for office and not reveal what they stand for. Quote, most of the people I know are pretty out there. They are known libertarians, but there have been so many Free Staters that have moved out here, I don't know them all, he said. However, he added, it's the two-party system in New Hampshire, this is what you were just saying, Bonnie, that pushes candidates into one of the two parties. Quote, if they don't like it, they should change the ballot access laws, Freeman said. To run with any party other than the Democrat or Republican parties requires a petition and a certain number of signatures.
And it's hilarious because when I'm going and getting signatures for Jeremy Kauffman, a lot of the people that turn me down say they don't want to sign it, that are leftists, say, oh no, I'm not supporting Free Staters and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, so you don't want to let us run on our own tickets?
Nope. And that's going to be a good point to make to them if they actually speak to us at this particular anti-Free State rally on Saturday. Freeman said if he were to run as a member of the Green Party or Libertarian Party, he would be required to gather signatures from the district he's running in, but to run as a Democrat or Republican, all he needs is $10. Quote, it's much easier to walk into the city clerk's office and give them $10. In my case, it was $10 and a short form. The thing is, Democrats and Republicans, they don't want more choices. Unquote. And that's a fact. And you mentioned the Democrats, but it's also true of a lot of the Republicans. Yep. When we're out there trying to get signatures for Jeremy Coffin, as soon as you say, they'll say, well, who's it for? As soon as you say libertarian, they turn around and they walk away.
You're just going to say war is gay.
There's more coming up here in moments. You can join us. This is Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain, maybe enough time for you. If you are wanting to join us, you can get on the lines at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Joa.
We invite you to our website at freetalklive.com. You can join our social media platform at social.freetalklive.com. It's not some sort of big tech mega corporate thing. It's much more free and open source. It's a federated system. It's a not Matrix, that's our chat server. It's Mastodon, which is a very, very cool system, and it's free for you to use. Head over to social.freetalklive.com. That's social.freetalklive.com. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts here. Bob is on the line in West Virginia, listening to WVTS there in Charleston. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes. Now, the public good is defined pretty well in Atlas Shrugged, which was written by Ayn Rand in 1957. The part that really goes to the meat of it all would be where Hank Rearden of Rearden Steel is brought before the tribunal of the Fair Share Act, which he violated because he would basically they said he wouldn't sell Rearden Steel to Rearden Metal to the State Science Institute. So they gigged him on by violating the Fair Share Act. And so he says basically that as defined by those who would dictate and regulate our behavior in our homes, our businesses, stealing their power from our liberty. This is what Hank Rearden said. And the judge said, you wouldn't want it misunderstood that you work for nothing but your own profit. And then Mr. Rearden responds, indeed, I want it understood clearly. I do not recognize the good of others as a justification for my existence. If their fair share demands that I get nothing for my labors, that it requires me to be a victim, then I say, public good be damned. I'll have no part of it. And then the judge says, how does that benefit your fellow man? Then Hank Rearden responds, I do not owe you an answer to that, but I could tell you in 100 ways, thousands of jobs, billions in revenue, fueling our economy, despite your efforts to destroy the very foundation of our existence. And I believe most of my fellow man would say the same if they had a voice. And how do you plead, sir? That's what they asked him. I do not recognize this court's right to try me.
Nice.
Nor do I. I'm sorry?
I said nice. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is all from Atlas Shrugged.
I've never read it. But...
I'm sorry?
Oh, I said I've never read it, but I'm really glad that you read this little excerpt to us today. It really did go on great with the whole idea of what is the common good and why are people against it. I don't know. It's great. I think everybody working towards their own best interest would, end up in a situation where there would be more good and harmony and order in the world
Right.
than if, other people
Just by
try to
letting
complain.
people create for themselves,
Yep.
they create a massive prosperity for the whole world. Now, another part is where Dagny Taggart, she crashes into Atlantis. Atlantis is the free state. Just imagine that. She flies and chases the gentleman down who's figuring out how that magnificent machine that was created would cause extreme prosperity by creating an unlimited amount of power for the people there. The gentleman is what's his name? Midas Mulligan. He's the great banker that went on strike and left the civilization, this state that they've created. And he asks he tells Dagny Taggart, she is the CEO of Taggart Transcontinental, which is the railroad, and he says, you've heard them say that people have a right to a living just because they are human. And that's not the right to earn a living. That is a right to a living, which you are required to provide for them. Now, do you see any common, My handwriting's terrible. Basically, I write notes when I read books. I write notes. So this is very important. There are people that are we are being enslaved by people that think they do not have to work, but they have to ensure that the public good is by your enslavement, by them doing exactly what you're told by the government itself. So I would say.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. I like it when people talk to me.
I was talking today to someone named Jay Noon, who's running for state rep up in New Hampshire, and he was explaining that people are brainwashed in college and public school systems to believe that they are completely dependent on the government. And because of that, those same people believe that anybody who is actually producing something owes them part of it because they believe that they couldn't possibly survive without the government stealing from the productive people and giving to them.
It sounds like a utopian idea.
Yep.
Exactly.
Steal.
Bob, I appreciate your call here tonight, and of course you're absolutely right, or at least the book in that case that you're sharing with us is.
It seems like Bob gets it.
Yeah, Bob, you definitely are on board. I appreciate hearing from you, and thank you for the call. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. All the hate directed toward people like Elon Musk, for instance, or anybody else that's running a big business that's become successful, as long as they didn't do it on the backs of the state, and you could argue Musk did, but as long as they've done something that's truly in the free marketplace, the only way they can be successful is by helping people, by giving them some sort of product or service that person wants. Well, you can give somebody a job, but if your market or if your product sucks, they're going to go out of a job because no one's going to buy it, right? You're going to go out of business, and that's what deserves to happen to companies that can't crack it. They don't have a good product.
Steal money from other people who have been successful and give it to that company so it can be propped up.
Which is, of course, what happens when we talk about corporate welfare.
That's why we need the government.
Well, that's what they argue, and that is that's not a free market. That's not a world that libertarians want to see. We want to see companies that deserve to go out of business go out of business.
Absolutely.
And then they can sell their assets at pennies on the dollar to some other investor who's going to try to do something different with them.
I think a lot of what the government does can be done privately. Like the DMV could be tackled by AAA or insurance companies. We don't need all these aspects in our lives to somehow create a civil society. No, the civility is within the people's, their spirit. You can't force the spirit. So stop trying to do it.
Let's go to David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, the DMV is already being done by private industry in many states, including New Mexico here.
Well, but the problem with just privatizing something is that you still have a monopoly. They're still the only source. Right. They're the government-mandated system that everybody has to go through. And I don't think that's what you were saying, right, Joey?
No.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, David.
Well, yes and no. This is not what I called about, but since you jumped on it, MVD Express here, they do what the government does. You got a choice. You go to the MVD Express, the private business, you pay a little bit more, and they save you time. You go to the government one, and it takes a little longer, and it costs a little less. And people really like the private version of it. They're a vendor. They do. They're not making the laws and telling you what you got to do. They're just providing a kiosk.
Right.
I don't doubt that private business can do it better than the government DMV. I don't doubt that.
David.
That leads into my next point.
All right, put him on hold. Go ahead, Joe.
David, when I lived in Rhode Island, and I don't remember any other states doing this, but AAA, you originally had to get your first license at the DMV, okay? But AAA even had their cameras, same cameras as the DMV, everything. So if you want to renew your license, you go to AAA, and they did everything right there, registration, everything, as long as you were a member. They didn't have a monopoly over it, even though they're the only one. I'm sure other companies could have come in. But the state shut that down. For some reason, they didn't like AAA doing it and turn it off. Sorry, David.
All right, David, good.
Well, that's exactly what we got here, only you don't have to be a member, and it hasn't gotten shut down, and people like it better. And that leads into the next point is that private industry, in my estimation, whereas government takes... Oh, there's music.
Yeah, you're out of town. You should have made that point quicker. But hey, call back tomorrow night.
Go ahead.
We'll get you back on tomorrow at that time, and you can make that point then. Thank
You're really
you,
supposed
Dave,
to have one topic.
for the call tonight. I appreciate it. But hey, don't forget to check out Joa's channel over on Odyssey. It's called Breaking the Flaw, and you can access it. Just go to our channel over at video.freetalklive.com. That'll take you to the Odyssey site. And just search Breaking the Flaw. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world?